Hello, dear dreamer. Welcome back to this quiet corner of the internet, this gentle space where science meets serenity, where curiosity and rest fold into one another like waves meeting shore. Perhaps you're watching this as city lights paint soft patterns across your ceiling, or maybe rain taps its ancient rhythm against your window. Wherever you are in this wide world, whatever constellation wheels above you in the darkness, I'm glad you're here. Your presence in this moment, your willingness to learn while letting go, is a gift you give yourself. If this is your first time here, let me tell you what we do. We explore the wonders of science with the gentle pace of evening settling into night. We learn without urgency, discover without strain. And if you find value in these moments we share, if this space brings you some measure of peace or curiosity, consider leaving a like or subscribing. Not for me, but so these videos might find their way to other curious minds seeking rest, other souls who want to learn while they unlearn the day's tensions. It helps this work reach those who need it, and I'm deeply grateful. Tonight, I want to offer you a question to hold, like a smooth stone warmed by your palm. Here it is. What are dreams? Not just the images and stories that unfold behind your closed eyes, but truly, what are they? Where do they come from? Why do they visit you each night with such strange certainty? Why do they feel so important in the moment, yet slip away like water through your fingers when you wake? Before we begin, a gentle reminder, everything we discuss tonight is offered for wonder and rest, not as medical advice. If you have concerns about your sleep or dreams, please speak with a healthcare provider. This is simply an invitation to explore, to marvel, to let your mind wander through the landscape of itself. So, settle in, adjust your pillow, let your breathing slow to its natural rhythm. Tonight, we're going on a journey through the most mysterious theatre in existence, the one that opens its curtains every time you close your eyes. The silent universe within. Your brain is whispering to itself right now, as you read these words, as your eyes track across this glowing screen. Approximately 86 billion neurons are engaged in conversation, a symphony of electrical impulses and chemical signals, so vast and intricate that it makes the busiest city on Earth look silent by comparison. And yet you hear none of it. You feel none of the individual notes, only the music they create together, your thoughts, your awareness, your sense of being you. Stop for a moment. Feel your heartbeat. Notice your breath. Are you aware of the pressure of your body against your chair, the temperature of the air on your skin? All of these sensations are being processed right now by your brain, filtered through layers of neural networks, interpreted, integrated, woven into your seamless experience of being alive. And this is happening continuously, effortlessly, without you needing to think about it at all. This is one of the universe's most elegant mysteries. Every sensation you've ever felt, every memory you treasure, every dream you've forgotten, all of it emerges from this 3-pound universe cradled in darkness behind your eyes. It runs on less power than a dim light bulb. This consciousness-generating miracle, 20 watts, that's all. Your laptop uses more energy than your entire brain, yet your laptop will never wonder about its own existence, will never fall in love, will never dream. It operates in perfect silence, asking nothing of your conscious effort, orchestrating the seamless experience of being alive with such sophistication that you rarely notice it's working at all. Right now, as you process these words, your brain is simultaneously regulating your breathing, maintaining your balance, monitoring your environment for threats, filing away memories, managing your emotions, and performing thousands of other tasks, all while letting you believe that you're simply reading, simply present, simply here. And every night, without fail, this same brain does something extraordinary. It disconnects you from the external world, creates a parallel universe of experience, and lets you live inside stories that follow no rules but their own. It lets you fly though you have no wings. It lets you speak with those who've passed, though they're gone. It creates entire worlds complete with physics, emotions, logic that make sense only in the moment. And then, most curiously of all, it helps you forget most of what it showed you. We call these experiences dreams. The word feels small, doesn't it? Too simple for something so strange and universal. Too casual for something that has puzzled humanity since the first human looked up at the stars and wondered what the night visions meant. The universal mystery. Every human being who has ever lived has dreamed. Your ancestors dreamed beneath African skies 10,000 generations ago, huddled around fires, telling each other about the visions that came to them in sleep. Did they see these dreams as messages from the spirits, as visits from the dead, as prophecies of hunts to come? We can only imagine, but we know they dreamed. The capacity is wired into our biology as deeply as breathing. People dream in every language, every culture, every corner of this spinning world. The Inuit dream in their ice-bound homes. The Bedouin dream in desert tents. City dwellers dream in apartment towers, while farmers dream in rural cottages. The dreams differ in their details, the settings, the concerns, the cultural symbols, but the phenomenon itself is universal. We are, all of us, a dreaming species. Babies dream before they're born, their tiny eyes moving beneath translucent lids in the warm darkness of the womb. Researchers have observed this, have watched ultrasounds showing rapid eye movements in fetuses as young as 23 weeks. What could they possibly be dreaming about? These unborn humans who have never seen light, never felt air on their skin, never experienced anything but the muffled sounds and gentle movements of the womb. We don't know, but they dream nonetheless, their developing brains already practicing this ancient art. You'll dream tonight whether you remember it or not, tomorrow night too, and the night after that, until your final sleep. In fact, you've already dreamed thousands of times in your life. If you're 30 years old, you've had approximately 100,000 dreams. If you're 50, perhaps 175,000, and you've forgotten most of them, each one dissolving like morning mist, leaving only the faintest trace, if anything at all. Scientists have a formal name for the study of dreams, oneirology, from the Greek word oneeiros, meaning dream. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? Oneirology. Say it slowly. Let it roll off your tongue. It sounds like it should be the study of something magical, something just beyond reach. And in many ways it is. The historical weight of dreams. For most of human history, dreams were considered messages from gods, from the dead, from some deeper wisdom beyond the self. In ancient Mesopotamia, dreams were recorded on clay tablets, interpreted by priests who held special knowledge of their meanings. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest stories, features prophetic dreams that guide the hero's journey. In ancient Egypt, dreams were taken so seriously that people would sleep in temples, hoping to receive healing dreams from the gods. There were professional dream interpreters, and the Egyptians even had dream books, guides to understanding what different dream symbols might mean. If you dreamed of a cat, it might mean fertility. If you dreamed of your teeth falling out, it might mean death. These interpretations were passed down through generations, written on papyrus scrolls, preserved with the same care as religious texts. The ancient Greeks believed dreams could foretell the future. They built healing temples called Asclepiae, where sick people would come to sleep, hoping to receive healing dreams from Asclepiae, the god of medicine. Sometimes the god would appear in the dream and cure the illness directly. Other times he would give instructions, herbs to take, treatments to try, that would lead to healing when followed in waking life. In many indigenous cultures around the world, dreams are still considered a form of reality equal to waking life. The Aboriginal Australians speak of the dream time, a sacred era when the world was being created. For many Native American tribes, dreams are visions, sources of guidance and power. Young people might go on vision quests, deliberately seeking dreams that would reveal their path in life, their spirit animal, their destiny. Even the Bible is full of dreams. Joseph interpreting Pharaoh's dream of 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows, predicting 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. Jacob's dream of a ladder reaching to heaven, with angels ascending and descending. Mary learning of her pregnancy through an angel appearing to Joseph in a dream. Dreams were portents, prophecies, doorways to divine wisdom. And then came Sigmund Freud, at the dawn of modern psychology, who called dreams the royal road to the unconscious. Freud believed they held hidden meanings, secret wishes, disguised truths about who we really are beneath our waking masks. He wrote that dreams were wish fulfillments, that every dream represented some desire, often sexual, often taboo, that the conscious mind couldn't acknowledge directly. So the unconscious mind disguised these wishes in symbols, creating elaborate metaphors that required interpretation to understand. Carl Jung, Freud's student who later broke with him, developed his own theory. He believed dreams drew on a collective unconscious, a shared human inheritance of symbols and archetypes. When you dream of a wise old man, or a nurturing mother figure, or a shadow self, Jung argued, you're tapping into patterns that all humans share, symbols that appear in myths and stories across every culture. Your dreams aren't just about you, they're about humanity itself, about the universal themes and struggles that define the human condition. But here's what makes dreams uniquely challenging for modern science. How do you study something you can't measure, can't hold, can't taste or weigh or photograph? How do you investigate an experience that exists only in the dark privacy of one person's mind? That vanishes like morning mist the moment consciousness returns. How do you build a rigorous science around something so ephemeral? For decades, psychology struggled with this. Dreams were interesting, certainly. Patients talked about them in therapy. Theorists developed elaborate frameworks for interpreting them. But how could you actually study dreams scientifically? How could you test hypotheses, run experiments, gather objective data about something so subjective, so private, so impossible to verify? This is what makes dreams so special, even though paradoxically, they're one of the most ordinary things you do. The temporal weight of dreaming. You'll spend roughly 6 years of your life dreaming. 6 years. Let that sink in for a moment. 6 full years of your existence will be spent in these alternate realities, these impossible worlds that your brain creates nightly. That's more time than you'll spend eating, which might total 2 or 3 years if you're lucky enough to live a long life. More time than you'll spend in school, unless you pursue multiple advanced degrees. More time than most people spend doing any single hobby, no matter how passionate they are about it. Think about what you could do with 6 years. You could learn multiple languages fluently. You could master a musical instrument. You could travel to every country on earth. You could write dozens of books, create thousands of paintings, build a business from nothing to success. 6 years is enough time to become an expert in almost anything, to transform yourself completely, to live an entire chapter of life. And yet, most of those 6 years will be forgotten. Research suggests that people forget approximately 85% of their dreams, with the forgetting happening most rapidly within the first 10 minutes after waking. So of your 6 years of dreaming, you'll remember, what? A few months' worth? A few weeks? The vast majority simply vanishes, as if it never happened at all. Think about that for a moment. Your brain creates these elaborate narratives, these impossible adventures, these emotional journeys so vivid, they can move you to tears, fill you with joy, terrify you, inspire you, and then, almost deliberately, lets them dissolve. It's as if you wrote a novel every night and burned the pages every morning, as if you painted a masterpiece and then washed the canvas clean before anyone could see it, as if you lived a whole life and then erased all memory of it before breakfast. Why? What purpose could this possibly serve? Why does your brain work so hard to create experiences it won't let you remember? These questions have puzzled humanity forever. Philosophers have pondered them, poets have written about them, religious leaders have claimed to have answers. But in one particular year, in one particular laboratory, something changed. The mystery didn't solve itself. Mysteries rarely do, but a door opened, a door that let us peek, for the first time, into the machinery of dreaming itself. The night science learned to see dreams. The year was 1952. While most of America was focused on Eisenhower's election, while radios crackled with news of the Korean War, and televisions flickered in living rooms with episodes of I Love Lucy, something quieter but equally significant was happening in a laboratory at the University of Chicago. A graduate student named Eugenia Sarinsky was doing what graduate students often do, the patient, unglamorous work of science, watching, recording, waiting for something interesting to reveal itself. Picture him there, night after night, in the dimly lit laboratory, the machinery around him humming softly, the smell of paper and ink from the chart recorders, the quiet breathing of sleeping subjects, hour after hour of watching pens trace lines on slowly unrolling paper, recording the electrical whispers of sleeping brains. This was not glamorous work. This was not the science of dramatic discoveries and eureka moments that we see in movies. This was the real work of science, tedious, repetitive, often boring, watching the same patterns appear night after night, taking careful notes, checking equipment, changing paper rolls, waiting, always waiting. Sarinsky was working in Nathaniel Kleitman's sleep laboratory. Kleitman himself was a pioneer, one of the first researchers to take sleep seriously as a subject worthy of rigorous study. Before Kleitman, sleep was largely ignored by science. It was just what happened when you weren't awake, a passive state, a shutdown, a biological necessity that didn't require much investigation. But Kleitman thought differently. He believed sleep was worth studying in its own right. He conducted experiments on himself, staying awake for extended periods to see what would happen. He lived in Mammoth Cave, Kentucky, for 32 days trying to understand how the absence of natural light affected sleep patterns. He was obsessed with understanding this mysterious state that humans spent a third of their lives experiencing. Together, Sarinsky and Kleitman were investigating the sleep patterns of infants, trying to map the mysterious territory of slumber with the tools available to them, electrodes placed gently on the scalp and near the eyes, machines that could translate the brain's electrical whispers into visible lines on rolling paper. This was the cutting edge of sleep research in 1952. No computers, no digital recording, no MRI machines, just electrodes, amplifiers, and pens drawing on paper. The discovery that changed everything. Hour after hour, night after night, they watched the pens trace their paths across the moving sheets. Sleep, they already knew, wasn't uniform. It deepened in stages, pulling the sleeper down like a diver descending through layers of ocean water. The brain waves changed as sleep deepened, becoming slower, larger, like ocean swells replacing ripples. This much was understood. This much had already been documented. But what Sarinsky noticed, what caught his attention like a star appearing in familiar sky, was something else entirely. At certain points during the night, the electrical activity changed in a way that seemed almost impossible. The brain waves, which had been slow and rolling during deep sleep, suddenly became active again. Fast, chaotic, almost exactly like the patterns of someone who was wide awake. For a moment, Sarinsky thought his equipment was malfunctioning. How could someone be deeply asleep and yet show brain activity that looked like waking. He checked the electrodes. He verified the amplifiers. He changed the paper. But the pattern persisted. The sleepers were definitely asleep. They weren't moving, weren't responding to sounds, were breathing in the slow, regular rhythm of sleep. And yet their brains were lighting up as if they were awake. And at the exact same moment, another remarkable thing happened. The eyes beneath their closed lids began to move. Not slowly, not randomly, but rapidly, darting back and forth as if watching something, following something, tracking movement in a world no one else could see. It was as if the sleepers were watching a movie projected on the inside of their eyelids, their eyes following the action, reacting to invisible scenes. This was the discovery of REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, and it changed everything. Rewriting the science of sleep. Before this moment, sleep was thought to be a passive state, a shutting down, a simple absence of waking. The brain slowed down, the body rested, and that was essentially it. Sleep was like turning off a machine, necessary for maintenance, but fundamentally inactive. But what Surinsky and Kleitman had found suggested something radically different. During these periods of rapid eye movement, the brain wasn't resting at all. It was intensely active, burning almost as much energy as it did during waking hours. The metabolic rate of the brain during REM sleep is nearly identical to the metabolic rate during alert wakefulness. This wasn't shutdown. This wasn't rest. This was something else entirely. It was like watching a city that appeared shut down from the outside but glowed with secret activity within. Like discovering that what you thought was silence was actually a symphony playing at a frequency you couldn't hear until you had the right instruments. The sleeping brain wasn't passive. It was alive, active, engaged in some kind of intense process that required almost as much energy as conscious thought. But what was it doing? What possible purpose could this serve? The answer came when they started waking people up during these REM periods. This was the crucial experiment, the one that would reveal what was actually happening during these strange episodes of rapid eye movement. They would wait until the pens showed the characteristic pattern, fast brain waves, darting eyes, and then gently wake the sleeper and ask, "What were you experiencing just now?" And when they did this, something even more remarkable happened. The sleepers reported dreams, not just simple impressions or vague feelings, but rich, elaborate narrative dreams. Stories complete with characters, settings, emotions, plot twists. I was in a house, but it was also somehow my school, and my mother was there, but she looked younger, and we were looking for something important, and I felt anxious because time was running out. The correlation was striking, almost perfect. Wake someone during REM sleep, and they'd tell you about the dream they were just having, vivid, detailed, emotionally intense. Wake them during other stages of sleep, and usually, though not always, they'd report nothing or only fragmentary impressions, thoughts without imagery. This was revolutionary. For the first time in human history, scientists could objectively identify when dreaming was occurring. They didn't have to rely on subjective reports of what people remembered in the morning. They could watch the brain activity in real time and know right now, this person is dreaming. They could measure it, track it, study it scientifically. The architecture of the dreaming night. Once scientists could identify REM sleep objectively, they could map its patterns through the night. And what they found revealed an elegant architecture to sleep, a rhythmic structure that repeats night after night. Your brain cycles through REM sleep, multiple times each night. Dear dreamer, the first cycle comes about 90 minutes after you fall asleep, lasting only a few minutes, a brief preview, a trailer for what's to come. It's like your brain is testing the systems, making sure everything's working, preparing for the longer dream sessions to come. Then you cycle back into deeper sleep, into the slow wave sleep where your brain rests more fully, where your body performs much of its physical restoration. About 90 minutes later, you enter REM sleep again, this time for a bit longer, maybe 10 minutes, then back to deep sleep, then REM again, lasting 15 or 20 minutes. This cycle repeats throughout the night, but with a fascinating progression. Each REM period grows longer as the night continues. By morning, you might spend 20 or 30 minutes in continuous REM sleep, lost in dream narratives that feel as real as waking life, perhaps more real, because in dreams, you're not just observing the story, you are the story, living it from the inside with an intensity that the waking world rarely matches. If you sleep for 8 hours, you'll cycle through REM sleep 4 or 5 times, and across those cycles, you'll dream for approximately 90 minutes to 2 hours, every single night. This has been happening your entire life, every time you sleep, with the regularity of a heartbeat. This is why you're more likely to remember dreams from the morning. If you wake naturally, without an alarm, you're probably waking from REM sleep, from the long dream period that happens in the final sleep cycle. The dream is still fresh, still active in your brain, but if an alarm jolts you awake during deep sleep, the dreams from your earlier REM periods are long gone, dissolved back into the neural ocean, the electric storm of dreams. And this happens while your brain is creating an electrical storm that rivals your waking consciousness. If you could see it, if you could somehow make visible the crackling dance of neurons firing in sequence and chorus, the waves of activity sweeping across the cortex like northern lights, you'd witness something that looks nothing like rest. Scientists can measure this electrical activity using EEG, electroencephalography. When you're awake and alert, the EEG shows fast, irregular waves called beta waves. When you relax, it shows alpha waves, still fast but more rhythmic. As you fall asleep, the waves slow down, becoming larger and more regular. In deep sleep, you see delta waves, big, slow, rolling waves that indicate your brain is truly resting. But during REM sleep, the EEG looks almost identical to waking. Fast, irregular, active. If you just looked at the EEG trace without knowing the person was asleep, you might think they were awake and alert, perhaps even engaged in complex thinking. The electrical signature of REM sleep is the electrical signature of an active, engaged brain. You'd see a brain fully engaged, perhaps more creatively active than it is during most of your waking hours, when so much of your mental energy goes toward practical concerns, navigating traffic, answering emails, remembering appointments, maintaining social masks, performing all the routine tasks that fill your days. During REM sleep, your brain is freed from these constraints. It's not processing sensory input from the outside world. It's not dealing with the immediate demands of survival and social navigation. It's free to make connections, explore associations, combine ideas in ways that waking consciousness might never allow. It's like giving an artist a completely blank canvas with no deadline, no client to please, no practical constraints, just pure creative freedom. But here's where the mystery deepens, where the story becomes even more curious. During REM sleep, while your brain is this active, while your eyes are darting beneath their lids as if watching the dream unfold on some inner screen, your body becomes remarkably still. Not just relaxed, paralyzed in a very real sense, though the word sounds harsher than the reality. The protective prison. While you dream, your brain performs a delicate chemical ballet, one that's been perfected over millions of years of evolution. This ballet is conducted by molecules you've probably never heard of, neurotransmitters, with complex names, but their function is elegant in its simplicity. They keep you safe while your mind wanders through impossible worlds. Certain neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that carry signals between neurons, are actively suppressed during REM sleep. Norepinephrine, which helps keep you alert during the day, which spikes when you're startled or excited, which prepares your body for action, drops to nearly undetectable levels. Serotonin, which helps regulate mood and supports logical thinking, is blocked almost completely. Histamine, which promotes wakefulness and attention, practically disappears. It's as if your brain deliberately disconnects certain systems, like a theatre dimming the house lights so the stage can come alive. These neurotransmitters aren't needed for dreaming. In fact, their presence might interfere with it. So your brain creates a unique chemical environment, one that exists nowhere else in your daily experience, one that allows dreams to unfold without interference. This chemical shift serves a crucial purpose. Though you never notice it happening, it creates what scientists call REM atonia, a temporary paralysis of most voluntary muscles. The word atonia means without muscle tone. Your muscles literally go limp, disconnected from the motor commands your brain might be generating. Your diaphragm keeps working, of course, maintaining your gentle breath. Your heart beats its steady rhythm, pumping blood through your dreaming body. The automatic systems continue uninterrupted. You don't need to consciously control them anyway. But the muscles that would let you act out your dreams, that would translate neural impulses into physical movement, are offline, disconnected, held in gentle suspension. Evolution's protective wisdom. This is your brain's ancient wisdom protecting you, dear dreamer. Without REM atonia, you might physically respond to your dreams. You might run from dream dangers, fight dream enemies, reach for dream objects, all while your body lies in bed, vulnerable, unaware of the solid world around you. Imagine if you didn't have this protection. Imagine if every movement command your brain generated during dreams actually reached your muscles. You dream you're running, your legs start pumping. You dream you're fighting, your arms start swinging. You dream you're falling, your body jerks violently. You dream you're flying, and you might roll right out of bed. The consequences could be severe. You could injure yourself, crashing into furniture, falling down stairs, hurting your sleeping partner. You could put yourself in genuine danger, sleepwalking into hazardous situations, your body moving through the real world while your mind inhabits a dream world. The evolutionary value of this paralysis is profound. It lets your brain run simulations, explore scenarios, process experiences, all in perfect safety, like a flight simulator that never risks an actual crash. Your ancestors who developed better REM atonia were more likely to survive, more likely to wake up uninjured, more likely to pass on their genes. Over millions of years, this system was refined, perfected, made reliable. For most people, most nights, this system works flawlessly. You dream of flying, but your body remains still. You dream of running, but only your eyes move, tracking the motion of the dream landscape. You dream of speaking, but your vocal cords produce only the occasional murmur, not the full speech of waking life. The paralysis lifts naturally as you transition out of REM sleep so seamlessly that you never notice the shift from immobility to normal muscle control. It's one of countless miracles your brain orchestrates without asking your permission or requiring your conscious oversight. You don't have to remember to activate REM atonia. You don't have to think about suppressing those neurotransmitters. Your brain just does it, every night, with the reliability of a well-designed machine. When the system fails, but sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, the system doesn't function perfectly. Biology is complex, and no system is absolutely foolproof. Sometimes things go wrong, and when they do, the results can be startling, even frightening. Some people experience REM sleep behavior disorder, a condition where the normal paralysis doesn't fully engage. The mechanisms that should suppress muscle activity don't work properly, and dream movements leak through into physical action. They might act out their dreams physically, moving, speaking, even walking, their bodies responding to neural commands that should have been blocked. This can manifest in various ways. Some people make complex movements, running, punching, sitting up in bed. Some speak or shout. Some have been known to get up and walk around, engaging in elaborate activities while still fundamentally asleep, still dreaming, their actions guided by dream logic rather than waking awareness. The condition is more common in older adults, particularly men over 50, and it's often associated with certain neurological conditions. It can be dangerous. People have injured themselves or their sleeping partners during these episodes, but it's also treatable. Medications can help restore the proper paralysis. Safety measures, removing dangerous objects from the bedroom, sleeping on a mattress on the floor, can prevent injury. If you or someone you love experiences this, please speak with a sleep specialist. It's a manageable condition, and understanding it removes the fear, replaces worry with practical care. Modern sleep medicine has effective interventions, and people with REM sleep behavior disorder can sleep safely with proper treatment. The opposite problem, trapped in paralysis. More commonly, people experience the opposite phenomenon, sleep paralysis. This happens when you wake up, regain consciousness, but the REM atonia hasn't lifted yet. For a few seconds or minutes, you're aware, you're conscious, but you can't move. Your voluntary muscles are still disconnected, still in dream mode, while your mind has already returned to waking awareness. This experience can be genuinely terrifying if you don't understand what's happening. You're awake, you're aware of your surroundings, you can see your bedroom, hear sounds, feel the bed beneath you, but you can't move, you can't speak. You try to sit up, but nothing happens. You try to call out, but your voice won't work. It's like being trapped in your own body, conscious but imprisoned. And often, sleep paralysis comes with additional disturbing elements. Many people report feeling a pressure on their chest, as if something heavy is sitting on them. Some experience difficulty breathing, though they're actually breathing normally. The sensation is a mismatch between the paralysis and their awareness, and many people report hallucinations, seeing figures in the room, feeling presences, hearing sounds that aren't there. Through history, cultures have created explanations for this experience. In medieval Europe, people spoke of the night hag or the old hag, a witch or demon that would sit on the chest of sleeping people, paralyzing them. In Newfoundland folklore, this entity was called the old hag. In many Asian cultures, it's a ghost or spirit. In some Islamic traditions, it's associated with jinn. The Japanese call it kanashibari, meaning bound in metal. The Chinese have the concept of geya, or ghost pressing. In Mexican and Mexican-American cultures, there's the phenomenon of subirse el muerto, a dead body climbed on top of me. In Turkish culture, it's called karabasan, a dark figure that presses down on sleepers. These cultural explanations reflect a universal human need to make sense of mysterious experiences, to create narratives that explain the inexplicable. Before we understood the neuroscience of sleep, what else could sleep paralysis be but supernatural visitation? The experience feels so real, so visceral, that a purely physical explanation seems inadequate. But the reality is simpler, and in its way, more beautiful. It's just a timing mismatch, a momentary lag between two systems that usually coordinate perfectly. Your brain is transitioning between states, like a theatre changing sets between acts, and you happen to be conscious during the transition. The paralysis is the same paralysis that protects you every night during dreams. The hallucinations occur because your brain is still in a partially dreaming state, generating imagery and sensations that mix with your waking perception. If you ever experience sleep paralysis, remember this: it's temporary, it's harmless, and it will pass on its own within moments. Focus on your breathing. You can always control your breath even during paralysis. The diaphragm is never paralyzed during REM sleep, so your breathing continues normally. Concentrate on taking slow, steady breaths. This can help calm the fear and can also help you transition out of the paralyzed state. Try to wiggle your toes or fingers if possible. These small movements can help break the paralysis. The paralysis isn't total. It affects major muscle groups, but often leaves small extremities with some movement capability. Sometimes moving your eyes deliberately, or trying to move your tongue, can help trigger the transition back to full muscle control. And know that what you're experiencing isn't supernatural or dangerous. It's not demons or spirits or anything external. It's just your brain's protective mechanism still engaged while your consciousness has already emerged from sleep. It's a glimpse behind the curtain of your own neurobiology, nothing more. The figures you might see, the presences you might feel, their dream imagery bleeding through into waking consciousness, harmless projections of your own mind. Understanding this doesn't make the experience pleasant, but it does make it manageable. Fear intensifies the experience, makes it worse. Knowledge reduces fear, gives you context, helps you recognize what's happening, and wait calmly for it to pass. The neurotransmitter dance. The chemistry of REM sleep creates other interesting phenomena too. Because the neurotransmitters that support logical, sequential thinking are suppressed, dreams often feel emotionally intense but logically loose. The parts of your brain responsible for critical thinking, for questioning inconsistencies, for maintaining a coherent model of reality, these are relatively quiet during dreams. This explains so much about the strange logic of dreams. In dreams, you might not question why you're suddenly in your childhood home, then at your workplace, then in a place that's somehow both but neither. You might not wonder why you can breathe underwater, why your friend has suddenly become a stranger, why you're simultaneously afraid and calm, why you know things you couldn't possibly know. The parts of your brain that would normally say, "Wait, that doesn't make sense," are quiet, allowing the narrative to flow without critique, without the constant reality checking that characterizes waking thought. Your critical faculties are offline, your logic centers are dimmed, and this allows the dream to unfold according to its own strange physics. This is why dreams feel so vivid while you're in them. Without your critical faculties engaged, without that little voice that questions and analyzes, you accept the dream reality completely. You don't think I'm dreaming. You think this is happening. You believe in the dream world as fully as you believe in the waking world when you're awake. The emotional centers of your brain, in contrast, are fully active during dreams. The amygdala, which processes fear and strong emotions, can be even more active during REM sleep than during waking hours. This is why dreams can be so emotionally intense, why dream fear feels so real, why dream joy can be so profound. Your emotions aren't dampened during sleep. If anything, they're amplified. So you have this combination: suppressed logic, heightened emotion, disconnected critical thinking, but active emotional processing. It's a unique state of consciousness, one that doesn't exist anywhere else in your experience. You're not just asleep, you're in a special mode of being, a state where emotion flows freely without logical constraints, where narrative unfolds without reality checking, where impossible things seem perfectly natural. There's something almost meditative about this state. When you think about it, during dreams you exist in a state of pure experience, without the constant mental commentary that usually accompanies your waking hours. You're not analyzing yourself dreaming. You're not thinking about thinking. You're just in it, fully present in a reality that your brain is generating moment by moment, accepting it all with the openness of a child listening to a story. In waking life, you're always somewhat split. There's the you who experiences, and the you who watches yourself experiencing, the you who acts, and the you who judges your actions, the you who feels, and the you who questions your feelings. This self-consciousness, this internal observation, is part of what makes us human, but it can also create distance, a gap between experience and experiencer. In dreams, that gap disappears. You're fully immersed, fully present, experiencing without observation, feeling without judgment. It's a kind of innocence, a temporary return to the direct experience of early childhood, before self-consciousness developed, before you learnt to watch yourself from the outside. And sometimes, rarely but magically, something even more unusual happens. Sometimes you wake up inside the dream, the awakening within sleep. Imagine this, dear dreamer. You're in a dream, moving through its landscape, experiencing its reality, when suddenly, a shift, a flicker of awareness, a thought that shouldn't be possible in the dream state. Wait, I'm dreaming. And with that realization, everything changes. The dream doesn't end. Instead, you become both actor and audience, both participant and observer, both inside the dream and somehow standing outside it simultaneously. This is lucid dreaming, the rare experience of becoming conscious within the dream state itself, not waking up from the dream but waking up to the dream, recognizing it as a dream while remaining inside it. It's like suddenly realizing you're watching a movie from inside the movie, or reading a book from within the story itself. But what does this moment of recognition actually feel like? Those who experience lucid dreams describe it differently. Some say it's like a light switch flipping on, a sudden clarity that cuts through the fog of dream logic. Others describe it more gradually, like emerging from underwater, reality slowly reasserting itself but not quite reaching the surface. Still others report a moment of pure confusion, a cognitive dissonance where they know they're dreaming but can't quite believe it, as if two parts of their mind are having an argument about the nature of reality. Research suggests that only about half of people experience lucid dreams spontaneously, and even then they're rare, perhaps a few times in a lifetime. But for those who do experience them, lucid dreams can feel remarkably profound, because once you realize you're dreaming, the dream world becomes a kind of playground for consciousness. The normal rules, gravity, possibility, consequence, all become negotiable. You can fly if you maintain the dream state, and oh, what flying feels like in a lucid dream. Not the awkward, flapping arm flying of regular dreams, but smooth, effortless movement through space. Some lucid dreamers describe it as swimming through air, others as willing themselves forward with pure intention. The sensation is uniquely liberating. Your body, normally bound by gravity's constant pull, suddenly weightless, unbound, free to move in 3 dimensions as naturally as walking. You can visit impossible places, cities that blend your childhood neighborhood with ancient Rome, libraries that contain every book ever written, and books that haven't been written yet, oceans of liquid starlight, forests where the trees whisper your secrets back to you. These aren't just visual experiences. Lucid dreamers report full sensory immersion, the texture of dream grass beneath bare feet, the taste of dream food that has flavors beyond anything the waking world offers, the sound of music that combines every instrument you've ever heard into symphonies that couldn't exist outside the sleeping mind. You can confront fears knowing they're just dream fears, just neural patterns with no physical threat. This has led some therapists to explore lucid dreaming as a treatment for nightmares, particularly recurring ones. Imagine facing the monster that's haunted your dreams for years, but this time knowing it's not real, knowing you can change it, dissolve it, transform it into something harmless or even helpful. Some people report that after confronting nightmare figures in lucid dreams, the nightmares stop appearing altogether, as if the fear loses its power once consciousness is brought to bear on it. But lucid dreaming isn't just about control or wish fulfillment. Many experienced lucid dreamers describe something deeper, a sense of exploring consciousness itself, of discovering the boundaries and possibilities of their own minds. They experiment with the dream environment like scientists in a laboratory of awareness. What happens if I try to read text in a dream? It often shifts and changes because the parts of the brain that process stable language aren't fully active during REM sleep. What happens if I look at my hands? They might have too many fingers or too few, or blur and morph, a classic reality check that lucid dreamers use to confirm their dreaming. What happens if I try to remember where I was before this dream started? Often impossible, because the dream creates the false sensation of continuity, of having always been in this moment. The neuroscience of double consciousness. Some researchers believe lucid dreaming happens when the prefrontal cortex, that logical, analytical part of the brain that's usually quiet during REM sleep, becomes partially active while the dream continues. It's as if one part of your brain wakes up while the rest stays asleep, creating this hybrid state of consciousness that's neither fully dreaming nor fully waking, but something in between, something uniquely interesting. Brain imaging studies of lucid dreamers have revealed fascinating patterns. When someone becomes lucid in a dream, there's a surge of activity in the frontopolar regions of the prefrontal cortex, the same areas involved in self-reflection and metacognition during waking hours. Essentially, the parts of your brain responsible for thinking about thinking, for being aware of your own mental states, suddenly come online during the dream. But unlike waking, the visual cortex and motor planning areas remain in that dream state, continuing to generate the vivid imagery and sensation of movement that characterizes dreams. This creates a genuinely unique state of consciousness. You have the reflective awareness of waking combined with the visual creativity and loosened logic of dreaming. It's no wonder that artists, writers, and innovators have been fascinated by lucid dreaming for centuries. It's a state where you can consciously explore the unconscious, where you can observe the mind's creative processes while they're happening, where you can be both the painter and the painting, both the storyteller and the story. There's also evidence that lucid dreaming involves increased gamma wave activity in the brain, high-frequency brain waves associated with consciousness, and higher-level cognitive processing. During normal REM sleep, gamma activity is relatively low, but when someone becomes lucid, these waves spike, particularly in the frontal regions of the brain. It's as if consciousness is literally oscillating at a higher frequency, processing information more rapidly, integrating multiple brain regions in a way that doesn't happen during either normal dreaming or normal waking. Learning to wake within sleep. There are techniques people use to increase the likelihood of lucid dreams, and these methods reveal something fascinating about the relationship between intention and altered states of consciousness. The fact that you can train yourself to become conscious during an unconscious state suggests that consciousness is far more flexible, far more malleable than we typically assume. Reality testing during the day, regularly checking whether you're awake or asleep, looking for signs that seem dreamlike, can carry over into sleep, creating moments where you perform the same test in a dream and realize you're dreaming. The most common reality checks include trying to push your finger through your palm in dreams. This often succeeds looking at text or a clock twice. In dreams, text tends to change between readings, or trying to breathe through a pinched nose in dreams. You can often still breathe. The interesting thing about reality testing is that it requires you to genuinely question your state of consciousness. You can't just mechanically push your finger against your palm while thinking, of course, I'm awake. You have to actually pause, actually question, actually consider the possibility that this moment, this very moment right now, might be a dream. This regular practice of questioning reality has an unexpected side effect. It makes you more aware of your own consciousness during waking hours too. You start to notice the constructedness of experience, the way your brain is constantly building reality from sensory input and memory and expectation. Keeping a dream journal, writing down dreams immediately upon waking, seems to increase dream awareness generally, making lucid dreams more likely. The act of recording dreams does several things. First, it trains your memory to hold on to dream content longer, fighting against that natural dream amnesia we discussed. Second, It helps you recognize your personal dream signs, those recurring elements, situations, or impossibilities that frequently appear in your dreams. Once you know your dream signs, you're more likely to recognize them when they appear, triggering lucidity. Third, it creates a feedback loop of attention. The more you attend to your dreams, the more your brain seems to know you're interested in dreams, and the more likely lucid dreams become. Some people use external cues, specific sounds or lights timed to occur during REM sleep, to remind their dreaming brain to become conscious. There are now devices designed specifically for this purpose, masks that detect REM sleep through eye movement and then deliver gentle light or sound cues. The idea is that these cues will be incorporated into your dream as external stimuli often are, but because you've trained yourself to associate these specific cues with the idea of dreaming, they'll trigger lucidity rather than just becoming part of the dream narrative. The mild technique, mnemonic induction of lucid dreams, involves setting an intention before sleep. As you're falling asleep, you repeat to yourself something like, "The next time I'm dreaming, I will remember that I'm dreaming." You visualize yourself recognizing a dream sign, becoming lucid, and maintaining that lucidity. This technique leverages the power of intention and prospective memory, the ability to remember to do something in the future. You're essentially setting an alarm for your consciousness to wake up during the dream. The wild technique, wake-initiated lucid dreams, is more advanced and frankly more difficult. It involves maintaining consciousness while your body falls asleep, essentially riding the edge between waking and sleeping without falling fully into either. Practitioners describe having to stay perfectly still while waves of sensation wash over them. The hypnic jerks we mentioned earlier, feelings of vibrational movement, sometimes auditory or visual hallucinations called hypnagogic imagery. If you can remain calm and aware through this transition period, you can sometimes enter a dream directly from waking consciousness, already lucid from the start. The ethics and challenges of lucid dreaming. But whether or not you ever experience lucid dreaming, dear dreamer, the phenomenon tells us something important about the nature of consciousness itself. It suggests that awareness isn't binary, not just on or off, not just awake or asleep. Instead, there are gradations, states, layers. Consciousness is more like a spectrum, with many possible positions between the poles of deep sleep and full wakefulness. Lucid dreaming occupies one of these in-between spaces, a unique vantage point where the dreaming mind can observe itself dreaming. This raises profound questions. If you can be conscious during sleep, what does that mean for patients in comas or persistent vegetative states? Are there forms of consciousness we can't detect from the outside? If consciousness can exist in these hybrid states during lucid dreaming, might there be other hybrid states we haven't discovered yet? Other combinations of different brain regions activating or deactivating that create entirely novel forms of awareness. There's also an interesting ethical dimension to lucid dreaming that's rarely discussed. If you know you're dreaming, if you have control over the dream, do the dream characters, those projections of other people that populate your dreams, have any moral status? Obviously, they're not real people. They're just aspects of your own mind. But they feel real in the moment. They behave autonomously. They seem to have their own perspectives and reactions. Some lucid dreamers report feeling uncomfortable about manipulating or dismissing dream characters once they become lucid, as if doing so would be somehow disrespectful to these emanations of their own psyche. And some experienced lucid dreamers describe something unexpected, that the dream itself seems to resist lucidity, as if it wants to remain a dream. They report that the dream environment becomes unstable when they assert too much control, that trying to force the dream to bend to their will causes it to dissolve or causes them to wake up. This has led some to approach lucid dreaming not as a way to control dreams, but as a way to collaborate with them, to engage in a kind of dialogue between the conscious and unconscious mind. There's wisdom in this approach. The unconscious mind, that vast processing system that runs beneath awareness, has its own intelligence, its own reasons for creating the dreams it creates. When you become lucid, you have the opportunity not just to control the dream, but to ask it questions. Why are you showing me this? What are you trying to process? What do I need to pay attention to? Some lucid dreamers report having profound conversations with dream figures, receiving insights that seem to come from a deeper wisdom than their conscious mind possesses. And this leads us to a deeper question, one that neuroscientists and philosophers have grappled with for decades. Why do we dream at all? What is the brain actually doing during these nightly theatres? Is there a purpose to dreams, or are they just random noise, the accidental byproduct of other processes happening in the sleeping brain? The purpose of dreams. The truth is, despite all our research, despite the thousands of studies conducted since 1952, we don't have a complete answer. We have theories, good theories, supported by evidence, each explaining certain aspects of dreaming, but the full picture remains beautifully, mysteriously incomplete. Let's explore what we do know, what we suspect, and what remains wrapped in wonder. The memory archives, dreams as organized chaos. Deep in your brain, dear dreamer, in the curved structure called the hippocampus, named for its resemblance to a seahorse, something remarkable happens every night. The hippocampus is one of your brain's primary memory centers, a kind of librarian for your experiences, responsible for encoding the events of your day into memories that can be stored, recalled, woven into the larger narrative of your life. But let's take a moment to appreciate just how extraordinary this structure is. The hippocampus is actually two structures, one in each hemisphere of your brain, each about the size of your thumb. And yet within these small curved structures reside the machinery that allows you to remember where you parked your car, to recall your first day of school, to learn a new language, to navigate your hometown without conscious thought. Damage to the hippocampus results in devastating memory impairments. Patients can't form new long-term memories, living in a perpetual present where nothing sticks, where every moment is immediately forgotten. During the day, as you move through the world, the hippocampus is constantly working, tagging experiences, deciding what's important enough to remember, what can be safely discarded. Every conversation, every sensation, every thought leaves a temporary trace. But these traces are fragile. Without consolidation, without being transferred from short-term to long-term storage, they'll fade like footprints in sand beneath an incoming tide. Think about how many sensory inputs you receive in a single day. Every moment, your brain is processing visual information from your eyes, sounds from your ears, touch sensations from your skin, smells, tastes, proprioceptive information about your body's position in space, emotional reactions, thoughts, memories triggered by what you're currently experiencing. It's an overwhelming flood of data. If your brain tried to store all of it with equal weight, your memory system would quickly become cluttered with irrelevant details, unable to find the important information when you need it. So the hippocampus acts as a filter, an intelligent sorting system that evaluates what's worth keeping. And it does this evaluation based on several factors. Emotional significance is huge. You're much more likely to remember something that made you feel strongly than something that left you emotionally neutral. Novelty matters too. New experiences, unexpected events, things that violate your expectations are flagged as potentially important. Repetition creates memory through sheer persistence. Encounter something often enough, and it will eventually be encoded, and personal relevance is crucial. You remember things that relate to your goals, your identity, your ongoing life narrative. This consolidation happens primarily during sleep, particularly during REM sleep. While you dream, your brain is engaged in a process of neural housekeeping, moving memories from temporary storage in the hippocampus to more permanent storage in the cortex, the wrinkled outer layer of the brain where long-term memories reside. It's replaying the day's experiences, quite literally refiring the same patterns of neural activity that occurred when those experiences first happened, but doing so in a way that strengthens the connections, makes the patterns more durable, more likely to persist. Scientists discovered this through elegant experiments with mice. Researchers would let mice navigate a maze during the day, recording the electrical activity in their hippocampi as they learned the route. They identified what they call place cells, neurons that fire when the mouse is in a specific location in the maze. Each location has its own place cell or group of place cells, creating a kind of neural map of the environment. As the mouse moves through the maze, these place cells fire in sequence, creating a pattern that represents the route the mouse is taking. Then, when the mice slept, the researchers recorded their brain activity again, and what they found was remarkable. The same patterns appeared during sleep, playing back in the same sequence like a recording being replayed. The mice were, in a very real sense, dreaming about the maze, their brains practicing the routes they'd learned, reinforcing the neural pathways that encoded those memories. Even more fascinating, these replay events happened at a much faster speed than the original experience, like watching a video on fast forward. The brain was efficiently reviewing and consolidating hours of experience in minutes of sleep. We honor these mice for their sacrifice. Dear dreamer, every laboratory animal that contributes to our understanding gives up its freedom, sometimes its life, so that we might learn. It's a debt we should acknowledge, even in a gentle exploration of sleep and dreams. Their contribution has helped us understand memory, learning, and the sleeping brain in ways that simply wouldn't be possible otherwise. These small creatures, living in cages, performing tasks for rewards, their brains wired with recording electrodes, they've given us insights into the fundamental nature of consciousness and memory. We owe them recognition, gratitude, and the responsibility to use what we've learned to reduce suffering and increase understanding. In humans, the effect is similar, though of course we can ask humans what they're experiencing. When people learn a new task, a complex video game, a dance routine, a list of vocabulary words, and then sleep, they perform better after sleeping than they would if they stayed awake for the same amount of time. Sleep, particularly REM sleep, enhances memory consolidation. The effects are specific and measurable. Studies have shown that sleep helps with procedural memory, the how-to knowledge of performing tasks. Musicians who practice a piece and then sleep show improved performance, and fewer errors compared to practicing and staying awake. The same is true for athletes learning new skills. Your brain is literally practicing the movements during sleep, firing the motor neurons and the sequences needed to perform the skill, strengthening those pathways even while your body lies still. Sleep also helps with declarative memory, the what knowledge of facts, events, and information. Students who study and then sleep remember more information than students who study and stay awake. But interestingly, sleep doesn't just strengthen memories indiscriminately. It seems to selectively enhance memories that were tagged as important during learning. Tell someone that certain information will be on a test, and they'll remember that information better after sleep compared to information they were told wouldn't be tested. Your brain, even while sleeping, respects your conscious priorities and intentions. Deprive someone of REM sleep specifically. Wake them every time they enter REM but let them sleep otherwise, and their ability to form certain types of memories becomes impaired. They struggle particularly with emotional memories, with integrating new information into existing knowledge frameworks, with making connections between different pieces of information. It's as if REM sleep isn't just about storing information, but about organizing it, finding patterns, building the associative networks that allow knowledge to be useful rather than just available. Dreams as epiphenomena, the accident of awareness. This is where one theory of dreaming originates, the idea that dreams are epiphenomena, byproducts of memory consolidation. According to this view, the brain isn't creating dreams for any purpose. Instead, dreams are the accidental result of the brain's nighttime maintenance work. As the hippocampus replays experiences, as the cortex reorganizes memories, as neural connections strengthen and weak ones fade, the conscious parts of your brain, which never fully shut down, try to make sense of all this activity. They do what brains do. They create narrative. They find patterns. They build stories from available information. Imagine your cortex as a storyteller who's been given random fragments. An image from yesterday, an emotion from last week, a location from childhood, a person from a dream you had last night, a snippet of a song you heard on the radio, the feeling of anxiety about an upcoming meeting, the taste of coffee from this morning. The storyteller doesn't know these fragments are random, doesn't realize they're just the side effect of filing work happening elsewhere. So it does its best to weave them into something coherent, to create a narrative that connects these disparate elements into a single experience. The result is the bizarre, associative, emotionally vivid experience we call a dream. This would explain why dreams are so strange, why they mix times and places and people in ways that make no logical sense. It's not that the dream is trying to tell you something. It's not a message or a prophecy. It's just your brain's storytelling engine running on random inputs, like an AI trained to generate text being fed a random assortment of words and asked to make them into a story. The story will have a kind of surface coherence. It will follow some narrative rules, will create scenes and sequences, but the underlying meaning, the deep logic, will be absent because there was no intended meaning to begin with. Think about what your brain's narrative engine does during waking hours. You don't experience reality as raw sensory data. You experience it as a story, as a coherent narrative with yourself as the protagonist. Your brain is constantly interpreting, contextualizing, making sense of the flood of information coming in through your senses. It fills in gaps, makes predictions, creates continuity even where there are breaks in attention or perception. This is why you don't notice the blind spot in each of your eyes, why you don't see the constant small movements your eyes make as they scan a scene, why you can follow a conversation in a noisy room by filtering out irrelevant sounds. During dreams, this same narrative engine is still running, but now it's working with internal inputs instead of external ones. Instead of sensory data from the world, it's receiving random activations from memory systems, from emotional centers, from the residual effects of whatever consolidation work is happening in the background. And it does what it always does. It creates a story, it makes connections, it builds a coherent experience from whatever material is available. This theory is elegant, and it's supported by considerable evidence. We know memory consolidation happens during sleep. We know that preventing REM sleep impairs certain types of learning. We know that dreams often incorporate elements from recent experiences, particularly experiences that were emotionally significant or cognitively challenging. All of this fits with the epiphenomenal view. Dreams as accidental poetry, beautiful but meaningless, the side effect of essential maintenance work. But here's where it gets interesting. If dreams are just random, if they're just accidental stories created from the noise of memory consolidation, then we'd expect them to be truly random, to sample equally from all experiences, all emotions, all types of content. We'd expect dreams to be like a shuffled playlist of your entire life, with equal representation of good and bad, mundane and exciting, recent and distant. And yet, dear dreamer, there's something incomplete about this explanation, because when researchers analyze the content of dreams, when they catalogue what people dream about, what emotions dominate, what themes recur, they find patterns that are hard to explain if dreams are just random noise. Dreams aren't evenly distributed across all possible experiences. They have a bias, a tendency, a particular emotional flavor that appears again and again across cultures, across ages, across the history of dream reporting. Dreams, it turns out, are anxious. The ancient simulation, your nightly training for survival. If you've kept a dream journal, dear dreamer, you might have noticed something curious. Perhaps you've noticed that your dreams, especially the ones you remember vividly, tend to involve certain kinds of situations more than others. Being chased, being unprepared for an exam, losing something important, being abandoned, arriving somewhere naked or inappropriately dressed, facing danger, failing at something critical, experiencing conflict with others, missing a flight or train, teeth falling out, being trapped or unable to move or speak when you need to. When researchers analyze large collections of dream reports, they find that negative emotions appear in dreams far more frequently than positive ones. Anxiety, fear, anger, confusion, helplessness, these dominate the emotional landscape of dreams. One large-scale study found that negative emotions appear in dreams nearly twice as often as positive emotions. Another study, analyzing thousands of dream reports, found that fear and anxiety were the most commonly reported emotions, followed by confusion and frustration. Happy dreams occur, of course. Dreams of joy, love, success, peace. They're possible and they're wonderful when they happen. Some people dream of flying and feel pure exhilaration. Some dream of reuniting with loved ones and wake with hearts full of warmth. Some dream of accomplishing impossible things, of creating beautiful art, of experiencing moments of transcendent beauty. But they're not the majority. The majority of dreams have an edge to them, a tension, a sense of things not quite right, of problems needing solutions, of threats needing responses. Why? If dreams are just random firings, just the accidental byproduct of memory consolidation, why would they trend toward anxiety rather than being emotionally neutral or pleasant? This question points toward another theory of dreaming, one that suggests dreams do have a function, an evolutionary purpose that goes beyond memory consolidation. This theory has several names: threat simulation theory, defensive activation theory, but the core idea is the same. Dreams are your brain's way of preparing you for danger. They're training simulations, like flight simulators for pilots or combat simulations for soldiers, but run by your ancient evolutionary programming rather than by conscious design. Every night, your brain creates scenarios that test your responses, that let you practice facing threats, that strengthen the neural pathways involved in detecting and responding to danger, all without any actual risk. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes profound sense. Your ancestors lived in a world of genuine, immediate physical danger. Predators in the darkness, lions, leopards, hyenas, snakes, all manner of creatures that saw humans as potential prey. Rival groups competing for resources, territory, food, mates, and willing to use violence to secure them. Injuries and illnesses without modern medicine, where a broken bone or infected cut could mean death. Natural disasters without warning systems, floods, fires, earthquakes, storms arriving with little notice and no way to predict them. The environment of evolutionary adaptedness, the world in which your ancestors evolved, and in which the basic architecture of your brain was shaped, was dangerous in ways modern life rarely is. You, reading this in your safe home, with access to emergency services, with walls and locks protecting you, with medicine available for injuries and illness, with weather forecasts and building codes and safety regulations, you live in perhaps the safest moment in human history. But your brain doesn't know that. Your brain is still running software designed for a much more dangerous world. And here's the problem. Actual dangerous situations are, thankfully, relatively rare in modern life. You can't practice responding to a leopard attack, if leopard attacks almost never happen. You can't rehearse escaping from a fire, if fires are uncommon. You can't improve your threat responses through real experience without exposing yourself to actual risk. It's a catch-22. The skills you need for survival are the ones you have the least opportunity to practice safely. Unless your brain creates its own practice scenarios, unless it generates simulated threats during sleep, when your body is paralyzed and safe, when the consequences are just neural firing patterns rather than actual harm, then you could practice every night. You could rehearse responses to hundreds of different threats over a lifetime of sleeping. You could keep your threat detection systems active, sharp, ready, even during long periods when no actual threats materialize. This would explain why anxiety dreams are so common. Being chased in a dream, that's your brain rehearsing escape responses, maintaining the neural pathways involved in fleeing from predators, even though you probably haven't been chased by a predator in waking life. The sensation of running, the surge of adrenaline, yes, stress hormones are released even during dream threats. The rapid decision-making about where to run, how to hide, all of this activates and strengthens the same neural circuits you would use in an actual chase situation. Being unprepared for an exam, that's practicing responses to social threats, to situations where you might be judged, rejected, or lose status. Your ancestors didn't take exams, but they absolutely faced social evaluation, being judged by others in their group, needing to prove their worth, risking rejection or exclusion. Social rejection for a social species like humans was often a death sentence. Lose your place in the group, and you lose access to shared resources, shared protection, shared knowledge. So your brain practices scenarios where your social standing is threatened, where you're being evaluated and found wanting. Being lost? That's spatial navigation under stress, a skill your ancestors needed constantly. Getting separated from your group, losing your way in unfamiliar territory, not knowing how to get back to safety. These were genuine threats to survival. So your brain practices navigating when you're lost, trying different routes, experiencing the anxiety of not knowing where you are, exercising the problem-solving skills needed to find your way, being unable to move or speak when you need to. This one's particularly interesting because it might actually be your brain's awareness of the sleep paralysis that's keeping your body still. You're dreaming, and on some level, your brain registers that your muscles aren't responding, and it incorporates this into the dream as a threat scenario. I need to move, but I can't. I need to scream, but I can't. It's a peculiar case where the mechanism that makes dreaming safe paralysis, preventing you from acting out dreams, becomes part of the dream content itself. The evidence across cultures and species. The theory also explains why children have more nightmares than adults. Children's brains are still developing, still learning about the world and its dangers. They need more practice, more simulation, more rehearsal. A child's threat detection systems are still being calibrated. What's actually dangerous? What's safe? How should I respond to different situations? The nightmares, as disturbing as they are part of this essential learning process. As you age and your threat response systems become well established, the need for intense simulation decreases. The nightmares don't disappear entirely. Your brain still needs to maintain these systems, but they become less frequent, less intense. There's evidence supporting this theory beyond just the emotional content of dreams. When researchers examine dreams in different cultures, including isolated cultures with no contact with modern civilization, they find the same patterns. The specific details change. You might dream about missing a train while someone from a hunter-gatherer society might dream about losing their way in the forest. But the underlying themes are universal: threat, danger, loss, conflict, anxiety. These appear in dreams across all cultures, suggesting they're not just cultural constructs but something deeper, something built into human neurobiology. Anthropologists have studied dream content in indigenous societies, in groups living traditional lifestyles, with minimal contact with the industrialized world. They find that these people also report anxiety dreams, chase dreams, dreams of danger and threat. The specifics reflect their environment, being chased by wild animals rather than supernatural monsters, failing at hunting or gathering rather than exams or work presentations, but the emotional structure is the same: anxiety, fear, the need to respond to challenges and threats. And when researchers look at animal dreams, yes, animals dream too, dear dreamer. All mammals and many birds show REM sleep and appear to dream. They find patterns consistent with threat simulation. A cat's paws might twitch in patterns consistent with hunting or fighting. A dog might growl softly at dream threats, might whimper as if distressed, might move its legs in running motions. These animals are practicing survival-relevant behaviors during sleep, maintaining the neural circuits they need to navigate their waking lives successfully. Michel Jouvet, a French neuroscientist, conducted fascinating experiments with cats in the 1960s. He lesioned the part of the brainstem responsible for sleep paralysis, allowing cats to physically act out their dreams. What he observed was remarkable. The cats would engage in hunting behaviors, stalking and pouncing on invisible prey. They would show defensive aggression, arching their backs and hissing at threats that weren't there. They were, quite literally, practicing survival behaviors in their sleep. When the cats were later tested on actual hunting and defensive tasks, they performed well, suggesting that these sleep rehearsals were genuinely functional. There's also evidence from developmental studies. Young animals of many species engage in play behavior, mock fighting, chasing games, practiced hunting on non-prey objects. This play is widely understood to be practice for real adult behaviors, but young animals also have more active REM sleep than adults, more intense dream behaviors, as much as we can observe them externally. It seems that nature uses both waking practice play and sleeping practice dreams to prepare immature animals for the challenges they'll face as adults. The modern anxieties. But here's where we must be careful, dear dreamer. Just because threat simulation might be part of what dreams do, doesn't mean every dream is a threat simulation. Just because anxiety is common in dreams, doesn't mean every anxious dream is your brain practicing for real dangers. The brain is far too complex, too multifaceted, for any single theory to explain everything about dreams. And there's another consideration. Many of your anxious dreams are about threats that your ancestors never faced. Dreams about missing flights, about computer problems, about social media disasters, about modern work situations, about being caught in traffic, about phone calls you forgot to return, about emails you forgot to send. These can't be ancient evolutionary programming because these situations didn't exist when that programming was being written. So either the threat simulation system is flexible, adapting to new kinds of threats, recognizing that while the specific danger has changed, the underlying pattern, time pressure, social judgment, loss of resources, failure to meet obligations remains the same, or something else is happening. Perhaps a combination of threat simulation and the memory consolidation process we discussed earlier. Think about what this means. Your brain has a system designed to practice responses to threats, a system that's been refining itself for millions of years, and this system is smart enough, flexible enough, to recognize that in your modern life, being judged negatively by your colleagues is the equivalent of what rejection by your tribe would have been for your ancestors. Missing an important deadline is the equivalent of failing to secure resources. Being stuck in traffic when you need to be somewhere is the equivalent of being unable to escape danger. Your brain takes modern situations and maps them onto ancient threat categories. Social evaluation becomes the same type of threat as tribal judgment. Resource scarcity, money problems, job insecurity becomes the same type of threat as food scarcity. Conflicts with authority figures become the same type of threat as challenges from more dominant members of your ancestral group, and so your dreams practice these modern threats using the ancient neural machinery designed for survival. This is why dreams about work stress, relationship conflicts, financial worries, and social anxieties can feel as viscerally threatening as dreams about being chased by monsters. To your ancient brain, they are the same kind of threat, just dressed in modern clothing. The neural systems don't care whether the threat is a leopard or a looming deadline. They respond to the pattern, the underlying structure of danger, and they practice your responses. The integration theory, the truth, as it often is in neuroscience, appears to be complex. Dreams probably serve multiple functions. Memory consolidation happens during sleep, and dreams might be a side effect of that process. But the content of dreams is also shaped by threat simulation systems, by your brain's ancient need to practice responses to danger, and there might be other functions we haven't fully identified yet, other purposes that dreaming serves. Recent research suggests a more integrated view, that dreams might be where memory consolidation and threat simulation work together. When you dream about a stressful event from your day, your brain might be simultaneously consolidating the memory of that event and practicing emotional responses to similar situations in the future. The dream takes the raw material of your recent experience, extracts the emotional and social patterns, and runs simulations that help you prepare for comparable challenges ahead. This would explain why dreams are often both familiar and strange, familiar enough to draw on real experiences and concerns, strange enough to create novel scenarios that test your adaptability. Your brain isn't just replaying what happened, it's creating variations, exploring possibilities, asking what if that conflict had escalated? What if you had responded differently? What if the stakes were higher? What if multiple stressors converged at once? What we can say with confidence is this: your brain, in its wisdom, has evolved to use the time you spend sleeping for more than just rest. It's actively working, processing, organizing, practicing, and dreams, strange, vivid, often unsettling dreams, are the conscious traces of that work, like the visible ripples on a pond's surface that hint at deeper currents below. The language of dreams. Let's pause here, dear dreamer, and consider what we've learned so far. We've traced the discovery of REM sleep, that moment in 1952 when humanity first glimpsed the machinery of dreams. We've explored the chemistry of the sleeping brain, the protective paralysis that keeps you safe while your mind wanders through impossible landscapes. We've examined theories about why dreams exist at all, whether they're meaningful simulations or meaningful accidents or something in between. But throughout all of this, there's been an underlying question, a puzzle that we haven't quite addressed directly. What determines the specific content of your dreams? Why do you dream about that particular person, this particular place, that particular situation? Is there a pattern to it, or is it truly random? When researchers study dream content systematically, they find fascinating patterns. Dreams tend to incorporate elements from your recent waking life, people you've seen, places you've been, thoughts you've had, but they rarely replay events exactly as they happened. It's more like your brain takes ingredients from your recent experiences and remixes them, creating new combinations, new contexts, new narratives. There's a phenomenon called dream incorporation that researchers have studied extensively. If you experience something emotionally significant during the day, there's a good chance it will appear in your dreams that night. But it won't appear directly. Instead, it will be transformed, translated into the symbolic language of dreams, woven into narratives that feel related but aren't identical. You might have a stressful conversation with your boss and dream that night about being in school, unprepared for a test. Not the same situation, but the same emotional tone, the same underlying anxiety about judgment and performance. You might worry about a relationship and dream about being lost in a familiar place that somehow changed. You might feel overwhelmed by responsibilities and dream about trying to pack for a trip, but never being able to fit everything into your suitcase, or about trying to make a phone call but never being able to dial the right number. This suggests your brain is doing something sophisticated during dreams, not just randomly combining elements but actually processing the emotional significance of experiences, finding connections between current situations and past memories, building a kind of emotional vocabulary that helps you navigate similar situations in the future. When you dream about being unprepared for a test, your brain isn't predicting that you'll actually face an exam. It's processing feelings of inadequacy, of being judged, of needing to perform. It's strengthening neural patterns that will help you recognize and respond to these feelings in whatever form they arise. The architecture of dream time. Dreams also show a peculiar relationship with time. Recent experiences appear frequently. What you did yesterday, what you worried about today. But dreams also pull from deep memory, bringing up people you haven't thought about in years, places you haven't visited in decades, even memories from early childhood that you might have forgotten in waking life. It's as if the dream state has access to your entire memory archive, able to reach into any drawer, any filing cabinet, any corner of your mental library, and pull out material that might be relevant to current processing. There's something called the dream lag effect that demonstrates this beautifully. Researchers have found that experiences are most likely to appear in dreams either immediately, within 1 or 2 days, or after about a week. There's a gap in between, as if the brain needs time to process the experience, to understand its significance, before incorporating it into the deeper work of dreaming. Think about what this means. When something happens to you, your brain makes an immediate assessment. How important is this? How does this fit with what I already know? What emotions are involved? This immediate processing might show up in your dreams that night or the next. But then there's a period of deeper integration where your brain is connecting this new experience to broader patterns, to your long-term understanding of yourself and the world. And about a week later, when that deeper processing reaches a certain point, the experience resurfaces in dreams, but now transformed, integrated with other memories, part of a larger tapestry of meaning. It's like your brain is sorting through experiences twice. Once immediately, for surface processing, what just happened? How do I feel about it? And again later, for deeper integration, what does this mean? How does this change my understanding? How does this connect to everything else I know? The dream lag effect reveals this two-stage process, shows us that memory consolidation isn't a single event, but an ongoing conversation between different memory systems, different timescales of processing. Dreams also seem to amplify emotions. A minor frustration from waking life might become intense anger in a dream. A small worry might become overwhelming anxiety. A subtle attraction might become passionate love. A slight annoyance with someone might become a full-blown conflict. This emotional amplification might serve an important function by experiencing emotions more intensely during dreams, by pushing them to their extremes in a safe simulation environment. Your brain might be helping you understand and regulate those emotions better when you're awake, when the stakes are real. Consider what emotional regulation requires. You need to recognize what you're feeling, understand the intensity of that feeling, predict how it might escalate or change, and choose appropriate responses. Dreams, by amplifying emotions, give you practice with the full range of emotional intensity. You experience rage in dreams, which helps you recognize and manage anger before it becomes rage in waking life. You experience terror in dreams, which helps you distinguish between genuine danger and manageable fear when you're awake. You experience grief in dreams, which helps you process loss and sadness in a contained way. There's also evidence that dreams help with emotional desensitization. When you dream about something that caused you stress or fear, the emotion is often less intense the next time you dream about it, and even less intense the time after that. It's as if your brain is gradually reducing the emotional charge attached to difficult experiences, helping you integrate them into your life story without being overwhelmed by them. This is similar to exposure therapy in psychology, where repeated, safe exposure to feared situations gradually reduces the fear response, the associative web. But perhaps most intriguingly, dear dreamer, dreams seem to make unexpected connections, to find associations that your waking mind might never make. This is why many creative people throughout history have reported getting ideas from dreams. The surrealist artists deliberately cultivated dream imagery in their work, understanding that dreams operate by a different logic than waking thought, a logic of association, symbolism, and emotional resonance rather than rational causation. Scientists have famously had dreams that led to breakthroughs. August Kekulé claimed he dreamed of a snake eating its tail, which led to his understanding of benzene's ring structure, a crucial insight in organic chemistry. Dmitri Mendeleev reportedly saw the arrangement of the periodic table in a dream. Otto Loewy dreamed the design of an experiment that proved chemical transmission of nerve impulses, work that later won him a Nobel Prize. Paul McCartney reported that the melody for Yesterday came to him in a dream complete and fully formed, and he spent weeks checking to make sure he hadn't accidentally plagiarized it from somewhere else. Whether these specific stories are literally true doesn't matter as much as what they represent. The recognition that the dreaming brain makes connections differently than the waking brain. Without the logical constraints, without the critical voice that says that doesn't make sense, dreams can juxtapose ideas that would never meet in waking thought. And sometimes, buried in the strangeness, there's genuine insight, a new perspective, an unexpected solution, a creative leap that the more rigid waking mind couldn't make. Think about how creativity works. It's fundamentally about making connections, seeing relationships between things that seemed unrelated, combining elements in novel ways, finding patterns that others miss. The creative process often involves what's called divergent thinking, generating many possible solutions, exploring multiple pathways, considering ideas without immediately judging them. And this is precisely what dreams do naturally. They create wild combinations, impossible scenarios, strange juxtapositions, all without the critical filter that would normally shut down these explorations as wrong or silly. This is part of the magic of dreams, dear dreamer. They're not bound by the rules that constrain waking thought. In dreams, you can be in two places at once. You can be yourself and also watch yourself from outside. You can know something is impossible, even as you experience it happening. You can be simultaneously young and old, here and there, afraid and excited. The normal laws of physics, identity, and logic become suggestions rather than requirements. And in that looseness, in that freedom from constraint, new patterns can emerge, new connections can form, new ways of understanding can crystallize. Your brain is an association-making machine. That's fundamentally what it does. Finds patterns, connects information, builds models of how things relate to each other. During waking hours, this process is constrained by reality, by sensory input that demands your brain's models match the external world. If you think the cup is on the left, but your eyes tell you it's on the right, your brain adjusts. If you expect someone to be angry but they smile, your brain updates its model. External reality constantly corrects and constrains your internal models. But during dreams, freed from sensory input, your brain can explore associations more freely, can follow connections that might seem bizarre but that reflect genuine patterns in your stored information, in your memories, in your understanding of the world. The dream where your childhood home is somehow also your current workplace isn't nonsense. It's your brain recognizing emotional or thematic similarities between these spaces. The dream where a friend morphs into a family member isn't confusion. It's your brain noticing something these people have in common, some pattern in how you relate to them, or how they relate to you. The personal grammar of dreams. So when you dream about something strange, when your childhood home is somehow also your current workplace, when a friend morphs into a family member, when you're simultaneously afraid and excited, young and old, here and there, you're not experiencing chaos. You're experiencing your brain's native associative logic, unfiltered by the need to match external reality. You're seeing the patterns your brain sees, the connections it makes, the web of associations that underlies all your thinking, but that usually remains hidden beneath the more orderly surface of conscious thought. And here's something beautiful to consider. As you drift towards sleep, this means your dreams, strange as they are deeply you. They emerge from your unique constellation of memories, your particular emotional history, your specific way of making meaning from experience. No one else will ever dream exactly what you dream, because no one else has exactly your pattern of neural connections, your particular life history, your singular perspective. Your dreams are as unique as your fingerprints, as individual as your voice, as personal as your memories. They reflect not just what you've experienced, but how you've experienced it, what caught your attention, what moved you emotionally, what confused or frightened or delighted you. They reveal the architecture of your inner world, the way you organize information, the hierarchies of importance you've created, the emotional shadings you assign to different memories and concerns. If we could somehow map all your dreams, could see the full network of associations, recurring themes and emotional patterns they contain, we would see a portrait of your psyche more intimate than any autobiography, more revealing than any conversation. We would see what you truly care about, what you truly fear, what you truly desire, not what you say you care about, or fear or desire, but what your brain actually prioritizes when freed from social constraints and conscious self-presentation. This is why dream sharing can feel so intimate, so vulnerable. When you tell someone your dreams, you're sharing something from deep inside, something that bypasses your usual filters and defenses. You're revealing how your mind actually works, what it focuses on when you're not directing it, what it creates when left to its own devices. The forgotten theatre, the vanishing act. But even as we explore what dreams might mean, what purposes they might serve, we must acknowledge something both frustrating and fascinating. Most dreams are forgotten, not just forgotten eventually, but forgotten almost immediately. You've experienced this, haven't you, dear dreamer? You wake from a vivid dream, a dream so clear and detailed you're certain you'll remember it forever. You can see the faces, feel the emotions, recall the specific details of the environment, but then you get up, start your morning routine, and within minutes, sometimes seconds, it's gone. You know you dreamed something important, something meaningful, but you can't retrieve it. It's like trying to hold water in your open palm. Research suggests we forget approximately 85% of our dreams. Think about that for a moment. 85%. If you dream for about 2 hours per night, the total time spent in REM sleep, and you sleep every night for your entire life, you'll spend approximately 6 years dreaming, 6 years of experiences, of vivid imagery, of emotional intensity, of stories and scenarios and sensations, and you'll forget 85% of it. More than 5 years of dream life vanished without a trace. And the forgetting happens fastest right after waking. Within 5 minutes of opening your eyes, you've lost about half of the dream content you could have recalled immediately upon waking. Within 10 minutes, most dream content has evaporated from memory. By the time you've showered and had breakfast, even dreams that seemed unforgettable when you first woke are reduced to vague impressions. If anything remains at all, sometimes you retain just a feeling, a sense of having been happy or anxious or excited, without any memory of the dream's content. Sometimes you remember a single image, disconnected from any narrative, Sometimes you remember that you dreamed but nothing else, like knowing you had a conversation but being unable to recall what was said. The neuroscience of forgetting. Why? Why would your brain spend so much energy creating these elaborate experiences and then immediately let them dissolve? From a memory consolidation perspective, it makes a kind of sense. The dreams themselves aren't what need to be remembered. They're the process, not the product. The important work is what's happening at the neural level, the strengthening of connections, the integration of new information with old, the reorganization of memory networks. The conscious experience of dreaming might just be a side effect, and side effects don't need to be remembered. Think of it like watching the progress bar while your computer updates its software. The progress bar isn't the important thing. The actual software updates happening in the background are what matter. The progress bar is just a visual representation, a side effect of the real work. And once the update is complete, you don't need to remember what the progress bar looked like or exactly how it moved across the screen. The same might be true for dreams. They're the progress bar of memory consolidation, neural reorganization, emotional processing. The conscious experience is just your awareness of work happening beneath the surface. But there's also a more practical consideration. If you remembered every dream in detail, your memory system would become cluttered with false information. You'd have trouble distinguishing between things that actually happened and things you only dreamed happened. Did you actually have that conversation with your friend? Or did you dream it? Did that embarrassing thing really occur? Or was it a nightmare? Did you remember to send that email? Or did you only dream about sending it? The boundary between memory and dream would blur, making it harder to navigate reality effectively. This isn't just theoretical. There's a condition called dream reality confusion, where people have genuine difficulty distinguishing dream memories from real memories. It's more common than you might think. Most people experience it occasionally, usually with mundane events. You're not sure whether you actually turned off the stove or just dreamed you did. You think you told someone something important, but you're not certain whether it was a real conversation or a dream. For most people, these moments are brief and easily resolved, but they hint at what would happen if dream memories were as strong and persistent as waking memories. Constant confusion, constant uncertainty about what's real. So your brain has developed what we might call a dream amnesia system. Dreams are flagged as dreams, marked as not real, and they're allowed to fade much more quickly than memories of actual events. The neurochemistry of REM sleep itself contributes to this. During REM sleep, levels of norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter important for memory formation and consolidation, drop to nearly zero. Without norepinephrine, the neural changes that would normally encode an experience into long-term memory don't happen as strongly. The experience occurs, you have the dream, but it's not being written into memory with the same permanence as waking experiences. Additionally, the hippocampus, which is crucial for encoding new memories during waking, operates differently during REM sleep. It's active. Yes, it has to be for memory consolidation to occur, but it's not encoding new memories in the same way it does during waking. Instead, it's replaying and reorganizing existing memories. So the dream experience itself doesn't get encoded with the same mechanisms that would preserve it for later recall. The practice of dream recall. It's not that dreams can never be remembered. Obviously they can, especially if you wake during or immediately after them, especially if you write them down right away. But the default setting is to forget, to let dreams dissolve like sugar in water, leaving only the faintest trace of sweetness behind. This is why dream journals are so effective if you want to remember your dreams. The act of writing, or even just thinking about the dream deliberately, rehearsing it in your mind, transfers the dream content from that fragile temporary storage into more stable memory systems. You're essentially overriding your brain's default dream forgetting mechanism. You're using the same encoding processes you use for waking experiences to capture the dream before it fades. And interestingly, people who keep dream journals consistently report that they remember more dreams over time, as if the practice trains the brain to hold on to dream content more readily. It's not just that they're catching more dreams by writing them down immediately, they actually start to remember dreams longer, to wake with clearer dream memories, to have better natural recall. The brain seems to learn, oh, this person cares about dreams. Dreams are important. I should flag them differently, preserve them a bit longer. This suggests that dream forgetting isn't entirely automatic and inflexible. There's some plasticity in the system, some ability for conscious intention to modify how the brain handles dream memories. People who value their dreams, who pay attention to them, who work with them through journaling or discussion or creative expression, genuinely seem to remember them better. The brain responds to what you prioritize, adjusting its forgetting mechanisms to preserve what you deem important. The wisdom of forgetting. But for most of us, most of the time, dreams remain in that twilight zone between experience and oblivion. We know we dreamed. We can sense it upon waking, can feel the residue of some recent mental activity, but we can't quite grasp what the dreams contained. It's like trying to remember a conversation you overheard while half asleep, or trying to recall the details of a movie you watched years ago. You know it happened, you know it affected you somehow, but the specifics are gone, dissolved back into the neural ocean from which they emerged. And perhaps, dear dreamer, this is as it should be. Perhaps the forgetting is part of the wisdom of dreams. After all, the important work happens beneath the surface of consciousness, in the rewiring of connections, the processing of emotions, the integration of experience. The dream itself, the story, the images, the narrative, might just be the foam on the wave, beautiful in the moment, but not meant to persist. The wave's real work is done by the water beneath, by currents you never see but that shape everything nonetheless. Think about it this way. You don't need to remember the process of digestion for food to nourish you. You don't need to remember each heartbeat for your cardiovascular system to work. You don't need to remember the immune responses for your body to fight off infections. These processes work best when they work automatically, beneath conscious awareness. Perhaps dreams are similar. They do their work most effectively when they're allowed to unfold naturally, to fade naturally, without the interference of conscious memory and analysis. There's something liberating in this perspective. It means you don't have to worry about interpreting every dream, analyzing every symbol, extracting meaning from every strange scenario. You don't have to feel like you're failing if you can't remember your dreams, or like you're missing important messages from your unconscious. Your brain is doing its work whether you remember it or not, whether you understand it or not. The dreams are serving their purposes: memory consolidation, threat simulation, emotional processing, creative association, without requiring your conscious participation or comprehension. And yet, for those dreams you do remember, there can be value in paying attention, not because every dream is packed with profound meaning that must be decoded, but because dreams can sometimes offer insights, can reveal patterns in your emotional life, can bring to awareness things you've been avoiding or ignoring in waking hours. A dream might not be a message from the universe or your unconscious mind trying to tell you something specific, but it might still point towards something worth noticing: a recurring anxiety, an unresolved conflict, a hidden desire, a fear you haven't fully acknowledged. The key is holding dreams lightly. Notice them without becoming obsessed. Wonder about them without demanding they yield answers. Let them speak to you without forcing them to say something particular. They're visitors from the night country, strange guests at the border between consciousness and unconsciousness, and like any guests, they're best appreciated when you don't make too many demands of them. The deep questions. What dreams tell us about consciousness? We've reached a deeper layer now, dear dreamer, where the questions become more philosophical. more fundamental. We've explored the mechanisms of dreams, the theories about their functions, the patterns in their content, but there are questions that remain, questions that push at the boundaries of what neuroscience can answer, questions that venture into the territory of philosophy and the nature of consciousness itself. Consider this. What is the relationship between dreaming and consciousness? When you're dreaming, are you conscious in the same way you're conscious while awake, or is it a different kind of consciousness altogether? This might seem like an obvious question with an obvious answer. Of course you're conscious when you're dreaming. You're experiencing things, aware of the dream content, but dig deeper and it becomes more complex. During dreams, you usually lack the metacognitive awareness that defines waking consciousness. You don't know you're dreaming. You accept impossible things without question. You don't reflect on your experience while it's happening. It's only in lucid dreams that you have that reflective awareness, that ability to think about your thinking. So perhaps dreaming represents a more primitive form of consciousness, closer to what might exist in animals with simpler nervous systems, pure experience without self-reflection, awareness without the awareness of awareness. Or perhaps it represents a different dimension of consciousness, one that's always present, but usually overshadowed by the more dominant, analytical waking consciousness. Some philosophers and neuroscientists argue that consciousness exists on a spectrum, with different levels or types. Deep dreamless sleep might represent minimal consciousness or none at all. Dreaming might represent primary consciousness, raw experience, sensation, emotion. Waking might represent higher order consciousness, self-awareness, metacognition, reflective thought, and lucid dreaming might represent something in between, or perhaps something beyond, a hybrid state that combines the experiential richness of dreaming with the reflective awareness of waking. If consciousness is an emergent property of certain patterns of neural activity, then what does it mean that those patterns can create experiences that feel completely real, but that have no external referent, no connection to the physical world? In dreams, you see things that aren't there, hear sounds that don't exist, interact with people who aren't present, experience events that never happened, and it all feels absolutely real while it's occurring. This suggests that the feeling of realness, the sense of being present in a world, has nothing to do with whether that world actually exists outside your skull. Realness is a property your brain assigns to experiences, not an inherent quality of the experiences themselves. This has profound implications. It means that everything you experience, waking or dreaming, is constructed by your brain. Your waking experience feels more real than dreams, not because it actually is real in some objective sense, but because your brain tags it differently, processes it differently, integrates it with sensory input that usually corresponds to external reality. But the subjective quality of experience, the feeling of being there and having an experience, is the same whether that experience is generated by external stimuli or internal processes. The problem of other minds in dreams. Or consider this. In dreams, you're often aware of other characters, dream people who speak, act, have opinions, behave in ways you can't predict. But those characters are generated by your own brain. When a dream character surprises you, you're surprising yourself. When a dream character speaks, you're having a conversation with yourself, though in the moment it feels like a real exchange with another mind. What does this tell us about the nature of self, about the boundaries of identity, about the way consciousness creates the experience of other? Think about it. In waking life, you experience other people as separate minds, as consciousnesses distinct from your own. You can't read their thoughts, can't predict exactly what they'll say or do. They surprise you, challenge you, disagree with you, and this separateness feels absolute, fundamental. Their consciousness is theirs, yours is yours, and never the two shall meet. But in dreams, you create characters that feel exactly the same way, separate, autonomous, unpredictable. A dream character can say something that shocks you that you didn't think of, even though obviously you did think of it because your brain generated the character's words. The dream character can represent a perspective you don't consciously hold, can argue against you, can embody qualities you reject in yourself, and yet it's all you. It's all your mind, creating the experience of dialogue, of separate perspectives of other minds. This suggests something profound about consciousness, that it's capable of dividing itself, of creating the experience of multiplicity within unity. Your single brain, your single consciousness, can fragment into multiple perspectives, multiple voices, multiple apparent minds. And it does this not just in dreams, but in waking life too. Think about internal conflicts, about feeling torn between different desires, about the sense of different parts of yourself wanting different things. Psychologists talk about the multiplicity of self, the idea that identity isn't a single unified thing, but a collection of different subpersonalities, different modes of being, different aspects of self that take turns being in charge. Dreams make this multiplicity visible. They show you that your mind contains multitudes, that consciousness is more like a democracy or a conversation than a monarchy or a monologue. And here's another layer. If you can create convincing simulations of other minds in your dreams, minds that seem autonomous and separate, even though they're not, how do you know that waking life is any different? How do you know that other people actually have consciousness, actually have subjective experience, actually have an inner life like yours? This is the philosophical problem of other minds. You can't directly observe anyone else's consciousness, can only infer it from behavior, from the assumption that since you're conscious and you behave in certain ways, others who behave similarly must also behave similarly, must also be conscious. Dreams complicate this because they show you can create beings that behave exactly like conscious entities, that respond, emote, speak, react, without those beings actually being conscious, because they're just aspects of your own dreaming mind. So behavior alone isn't sufficient proof of consciousness, and yet behavior is all you have to go on when judging whether other people are conscious. Dreams thus highlight the fundamental mystery at the heart of consciousness, the privacy of subjective experience, the impossibility of truly knowing what it's like to be anyone other than yourself, the mystery that remains. These questions don't have easy answers, dear dreamer. They might not have any complete answers at all. They exist at the intersection of neuroscience, philosophy, phenomenology, the study of conscious experience itself. They push against the limits of what we can know through objective measurement and what remains inherently subjective, accessible only through first-person experience. And yet, isn't there something comforting in this? In a world that often feels over-explained, over-analyzed, stripped of mystery by the relentless progress of scientific understanding, dreams remain genuinely mysterious. Not because we're ignorant. We know vastly more about dreams now than we did in 1952, than we did in Freud's time, than we did in all of human history before the discovery of REM sleep, but because dreams touch on something fundamental about consciousness that might always elude complete explanation. We can map every neuron, track every neurotransmitter, measure every brain wave, identify every stage of sleep, catalogue every type of dream content, and still the essential mystery remains. What is it like to be you dreaming? How does neural activity become subjective experience? Why does consciousness feel like something? These are questions that science can approach but perhaps never fully answer, because they involve the transition from objective description to subjective experience, from third-person observation to first-person being. This is sometimes called the hard problem of consciousness, not the problem of explaining brain functions, neural correlates or behavioral outputs, But the problem of explaining why these physical processes feel like anything at all, why there's a subjective dimension to experience. Dreams intensify this problem because they show us that consciousness can create entire worlds, entire experiences, with no external input whatsoever. The dream world isn't less vivid than the waking world. Often it's more vivid, more emotionally intense, more surprising. And yet it exists nowhere except in patterns of neural firing. You are, in the most literal sense, the expert on your own dreams. Scientists can tell you about the stages of sleep, about neurotransmitters and REM cycles, about statistical patterns in dream content across populations. But no one can tell you what your dreams mean to you. No one can access the felt experience of your specific dreams, the emotions they evoke, the memories they stir, the insights they might offer. That knowledge belongs to you alone. This radical privacy of dreams is actually quite beautiful when you think about it. In an age of surveillance, of data collection, of algorithms that predict your behavior and preferences, dreams remain absolutely private. No one can hack your dreams. No one can record them or analyze them without your cooperation. No one can know what you dream unless you choose to share it. Your dream life is the last truly private space, the final sanctuary of consciousness that belongs to you and you alone. Part 6. The Nightly Journey. Tonight's performance. Tonight, when you close your eyes and drift into sleep, your brain will begin its ancient work. Within 90 minutes, you'll enter your first REM cycle. Your eyes will move beneath their lids, scanning dream landscapes that exist nowhere but in your neural activity. Your brain will light up with electrical activity, rivaling waking consciousness, waves of neural firing cascading across your cortex. Your muscles will relax into protective paralysis, acetylcholine flooding the motor neurons while glycine and GABA hold your body still, and you'll dream. You might dream of flying, that most common of dream experiences, that impossible joy of movement, unbound by gravity. Flying dreams are reported by approximately 60% of people at some point in their lives, and they're almost universally experienced as positive, exhilarating, liberating. Some dream researchers suggest that flying dreams might be your brain's way of processing the sensation of being in REM sleep itself. Your body weightless and still, your mind active and free, the normal constraints of physical existence temporarily suspended. You might dream of falling, your body jerking awake just before impact in what's called a hypnic jerk, a harmless spasm as your brain transitions between sleep stages. These sudden starts are completely normal, experienced by up to 70% of people. They might occur as your brain is settling into sleep, as muscle tone decreases, and some part of your nervous system interprets this relaxation as falling and triggers a defensive reflex. Or they might happen as you transition from one sleep stage to another, brief moments of confusion as your brain recalibrates its state. You might dream of being chased, your ancient threat simulation systems running their evolutionary programming. Chase dreams are among the most common anxiety dreams, reported across all cultures and age groups. The chaser might be a person, an animal, a monster, something abstract or undefined. The important thing isn't the identity of the pursuer, but the activation of your flight response, the practice of escape and evasion, the maintenance of neural systems that kept your ancestors alive in a dangerous world. You might dream of loved ones, living or dead, having conversations that feel completely real in the moment. Dreams about deceased loved ones are particularly poignant. They can feel like visits, like reunions, like gifts from the unconscious. Many people report that these dreams bring comfort, help with grief, provide a sense of connection that transcends physical death. While neuroscience would say these are simply memory activations, simply your brain processing the emotional significance of loss, the subjective experience can be profound and meaningful, regardless of the mechanism. You might find yourself in your childhood home, but it's somehow different, bigger or smaller, with rooms that didn't exist, in a location that makes no sense. Place dreams often involve these impossible combinations, these mergings of different locations or time periods. Your childhood home might have the layout of your current apartment, might be located in a city you visited last year, might contain people who never lived there. These dream distortions reveal how your brain organizes spatial memory, not as literal blueprints but as associative networks, where places are connected by meaning and emotion rather than geographic logic. You might be back in school, facing an exam you didn't study for, a dream so common it's almost universal, that modern manifestation of social anxiety that our brains have adopted, even though our ancestors never took exams. The school dream, the unprepared for test dream, the can't find the classroom dream. These are so prevalent they're considered archetypal, appearing in dream reports across cultures. They reflect the modern experience of evaluation, of performance under pressure, of anxiety about meeting standards and expectations. You might be flying an airplane or swimming in space or having tea with a celebrity or running from something you can't quite see. You might discover you have superpowers, or that you've forgotten something crucial, or that you can breathe underwater. You might be naked in public or wearing the wrong clothes or unable to speak when you need to. You might reunite with old friends or lose your way in a familiar place or discover hidden rooms in a house you thought you knew. Whatever you dream, it will feel real while it's happening. The emotions will be genuine emotions. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between dream fear and real fear, between dream joy and real joy. The sensations will engage the same neural systems as waking sensations. In a very real sense, you'll be living a second life, experiencing events that never happened, but that your brain processes as if they did. The visual cortex will generate images as vivid as anything you see with your eyes open. The auditory cortex will create sounds, voices, music, ambient noise that seem to come from outside you, even though they're generated within. The emotional centers of your brain will produce feelings as intense as waking emotions, sometimes more so. The motor planning regions will simulate movement, creating the sensation of running, flying, swimming, climbing, even though your actual muscles remain still. And through it all, unless you become lucid, you won't question it. You won't think this is strange, or this couldn't happen, or I must be dreaming. You'll simply accept it, living within the logic of the dream, following its narrative wherever it leads. This acceptance is part of what makes dreams so powerful. They bypass your critical faculties, your skepticism, your rational evaluation. They present their reality directly to your consciousness, unmediated by judgment. The morning return, and then you'll wake. The dream will immediately begin to fade. You might catch a glimpse of it, a fragment of the narrative, an impression of where you were or what you felt. Or you might wake with only the sense that you dreamed, nothing more. The details will dissolve, returning to the neural ocean from which they emerged. The transition from dreaming to waking is itself a remarkable process. As you approach waking, your brain begins to change states gradually. REM sleep lightens. The paralysis starts to lift. External stimuli, sounds light. The pressure of your bladder, the temperature of the room begin to register. Your prefrontal cortex starts to come fully online, bringing with it the logical, analytical perspective that was largely absent during the dream. Sometimes this transition is smooth, a gentle rising through layers of consciousness. Other times it's abrupt, an alarm, a loud noise, a touch, something that yanks you from deep sleep directly to full waking. These abrupt wakings are when you're most likely to remember your dreams, because you're catching them before they've had time to fade, before your brain has fully engaged its dream-forgetting mechanisms. In those first moments of waking, you exist in a liminal space, neither fully dreaming nor fully awake. hypnopompic. This state is called the mirror image of hypnagogic, the state when falling asleep. In this hypnopompic state, dream images might linger, overlaying your waking perception. You might see shadowy figures, hear voices, feel presences. These aren't hallucinations in the clinical sense, just the normal process of your brain switching modes, dream consciousness gradually giving way to waking consciousness. And your brain will have done its work. Whatever dreams came, whatever scenarios played out, whatever emotions surged and subsided, all of it will have served its purposes. Memories will have been consolidated, emotional experiences processed, threat scenarios simulated, creative connections made. The work happens whether you remember it or not, whether you understand it or not, whether you think about it or not. Your brain knows what to do. It's been doing this every night of your life, every night of your ancestors' lives, every night in the lives of every human who has ever existed. The ancient rhythm. This will happen tonight, and tomorrow night, and the night after that. It will happen whether you remember it or not, whether you're interested in dreams or indifferent to them, whether you keep a dream journal or never give your dreams a second thought. Your brain knows how to do this. It's as natural as breathing, as automatic as your heartbeat, as reliable as the sunrise. And there's something deeply peaceful about that, isn't there? About knowing that your brain will take care of this work, will do what needs to be done, without requiring your conscious oversight or control. You don't need to think about consolidating memories. Your hippocampus will handle it. You don't need to worry about processing emotions. Your limbic system is on the job. You don't need to practice threat responses. Your ancient neural systems will run their simulations automatically. You don't need to make creative connections. Your associative networks will explore possibilities without your direction. All you need to do, dear dreamer, is sleep. Just close your eyes, relax your body, let your breathing slow to its natural rhythm, and trust. Trust in the processes that have been refined over millions of years of evolution. Trust in your brain's ancient wisdom. Trust in the nightly journey through consciousness that awaits you. Sleep is one of the most universal experiences in the animal kingdom. Every mammal sleeps. Every bird sleeps. Reptiles sleep. Amphibians sleep. Fish sleep. Even insects and worms show sleep-like states. It's one of the most fundamental behaviors, one that evolution has preserved across hundreds of millions of years, across countless species, across vast differences in nervous system complexity. If sleep weren't essential, if it didn't provide crucial benefits, evolution would have eliminated it long ago. After all, sleep makes animals vulnerable. They can't eat, can't reproduce, can't flee from predators. The fact that every animal sleeps despite these costs tells us that the benefits must be enormous, must be essential for survival. And humans, with our large, complex brains, need sleep more than almost any other animal. We spend roughly a third of our lives sleeping, more than most mammals, more than most primates. This isn't because we're lazy or inefficient. It's because our brains, with their vast networks of connections, their complex processing systems, their enormous memory stores, require extensive maintenance. We need time for consolidation, for organization, for the housekeeping tasks that keep our neural systems functioning optimally. Part 7. The Beautiful Mystery. Embracing the Unknown. We've reached the end of our journey together tonight, though in truth, we've only scratched the surface of this vast topic. Dreams have fascinated humanity. For as long as we've been human, they've inspired art, literature, religion, philosophy. They've been interpreted as messages from gods, as glimpses of the future, as windows into the unconscious mind. And while modern neuroscience has given us remarkable insights into the mechanisms of dreaming, it hasn't, and perhaps never will, strip away the fundamental mystery and wonder of the experience. Think about it. You can know everything science has discovered about REM sleep, about neurotransmitters, about the hippocampus and memory consolidation, about threat simulation and emotional processing. You can understand the theories, appreciate the evidence, grasp the mechanisms, and then tonight you'll lie down, close your eyes, and drift into a state where none of that knowledge matters. You'll become someone else, somewhere else, experiencing things that couldn't possibly happen but that feel absolutely real. You'll fly or fall or run or hide or discover or lose or love or fear, and it will all feel as vivid as anything you've experienced while awake. And then you'll wake up and forget most of it. There's something almost comically paradoxical about this, isn't there? The most common altered state of consciousness that humans experience, the state we'll all enter tonight and every night for the rest of our lives, remains largely opaque to our understanding. We can predict the phases of the moon centuries in advance with perfect accuracy, but we can't predict what you'll dream about tonight with any precision. We can map the human genome down to individual nucleotides, but we can't create a complete map of a single dream's meaning and purpose. We can measure brain waves and identify neurotransmitter levels and track eye movements and observe neural activity, but we can't capture the subjective experience of dreaming. We can't record your dreams, can't view them on a screen, can't share them directly with anyone else. Dreams remain stubbornly, beautifully private, accessible only to the dreamer, knowable only through the imperfect medium of language when the dreamer chooses to share them. The gift of mystery. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it's even necessary, because dreams operate at the boundary between the knowable and the unknowable, between the material brain and the ineffable experience of consciousness. They remind us that despite all our advances, despite all our instruments and theories and clever experiments, there remain aspects of existence that are fundamentally personal, fundamentally subjective, fundamentally mysterious. In an age of increasing surveillance and data collection, where algorithms know your browsing history and purchasing patterns, where cameras track your movements and databases store your information, dreams remain absolutely private. No one can monitor them, record them, analyze them without your participation. No one can know what you dream unless you tell them. This privacy is precious, increasingly rare in our modern world. Dreams also remind us that reality is constructed, that the sense of being in a world, of experiencing a coherent reality, is something your brain creates, rather than something it passively receives. During waking hours, this constructed nature of experience is hidden because your brain's constructions match external reality closely enough that you don't notice the gap. But during dreams, when external input is absent, the constructedness becomes obvious. You experience vivid, coherent, seemingly real worlds that exist nowhere except in your neural activity. And this reveals something profound, that waking experience is also constructed, also generated by your brain, also a kind of dream, just one that's constrained and informed by sensory input. You are the only person who will ever know what it's like to be you dreaming. That's a kind of privacy, a kind of intimacy with yourself that nothing can take away. In your dreams, you're alone with your own mind in the most profound way possible. No one can join you there. No one can observe what you're experiencing. It's just you and your brain creating worlds together, living lives that exist only in the electrical patterns of your neurons, experiencing emotions and sensations and narratives that are as real as anything in the physical world, but that have no physical existence at all. The paradox of consciousness. This is the paradox at the heart of consciousness itself. The most real thing in your experience, your subjective awareness, your felt sense of being, is the most invisible to external observation. Dreams are just this paradox made more obvious, more dramatic. Their consciousness experiencing itself without the anchor of sensory input, without the constraint of physical reality, free to create whatever it wants from the vast library of your memories and emotions and knowledge. And every night, without fail, you get to experience this miracle. Not occasionally, not rarely, but every single night of your life. It's so common we take it for granted. We say, "I had a dream last night," with the same casual tone we might say, "I had a sandwich for lunch." But really, truly, think about what you're saying. Last night, while my body lay motionless in bed, while my eyes were closed and my muscles were paralyzed, I experienced an entire alternate reality. I lived in a world that didn't exist, interacted with people who weren't there, felt emotions in response to events that never happened, and it felt completely real while it was happening. That's extraordinary. That's miraculous. That's the most science fictional thing that happens to us on a daily basis, and we barely notice because it's so familiar, so expected, so woven into the fabric of ordinary life. If someone described this experience to you without calling it dreaming, if they said, "Every night I lose consciousness and enter an alternate reality where the normal rules of physics and logic don't apply, where I live through experiences that feel completely real but that have no connection to my actual life, and then I mostly forget these experiences when I return to normal consciousness," you'd think they were describing some exotic altered state, some rare mystical experience, some unusual neurological condition. But they'd be describing something that happens to every healthy human, every night, as a normal part of existence. The invitation to wonder. So tonight, dear dreamer, as you prepare for sleep, take a moment to appreciate what's about to happen. You're about to embark on a journey that's been taken by every human who has ever lived. You're about to enter a state that scientists have studied for decades, but still don't fully understand. You're about to experience something that's simultaneously deeply personal and universally shared, completely private and totally common, thoroughly mysterious and utterly ordinary. Your brain knows what to do. It's been doing this since before you were born. Those rapid eye movements appear in fetuses, in babies still floating in amniotic fluid, dreaming of what? We don't know, we can't know, but they're dreaming, preparing for a life of consciousness that includes both waking and sleeping, both reality and dream, both the anchored experience of sensory input and the free-floating creation of the dreaming mind. Consider the fact that you spent your first 9 months of life in a dark, liquid-filled chamber, experiencing sensory input like nothing you experience now, muffled sounds, diffuse light, constant movement, the rhythm of a heartbeat that wasn't your own. And during that time, you were already sleeping and dreaming, already cycling through states of consciousness, already practicing the neural patterns that would support a lifetime of sleeping and waking. You were dreaming before you knew what the world looked like, before you knew what light felt like on your skin, before you knew what it meant to be separate from another body. What does a fetus dream about? We'll never know, but the fact that they dream at all suggests that dreaming is more fundamental than we sometimes assume. It's not just a byproduct of having experiences to process or threats to simulate. It's something more basic, more intrinsic to consciousness itself, something that begins before there's a clear distinction between self and world, before there's a waking life to consolidate or dangers to rehearse. Part 8. A gentle farewell. Permission to rest. And so we come to the close of our time together tonight. Dear dreamer, thank you for spending these quiet moments with me, for bringing your curiosity and your attention to this exploration of dreams and dreaming. I hope you found some wonder here, some new perspective on these nightly journeys you take. I hope you found some peace, some gentleness, some softness to carry with you into sleep. Remember that everything we've discussed, the stages of sleep, the chemistry of REM, the theories about why we dream, the patterns in dream content, the forgetting, the mystery, all of this is just our attempt to understand something that exists primarily as experience, as feeling, as the ineffable quality of being conscious. The maps are not the territory. The theories are not the dreams themselves. Tonight, you'll experience the reality that all these words and ideas merely point toward. You'll dream, and that dream will be more real to you in that moment than anything I've said here. So let the knowledge rest lightly. Let it inform your appreciation of sleep and dreams without creating pressure or expectation. You don't need to dream differently, to sleep better, to remember more, to analyze or interpret or understand. You don't need to have profound dreams or meaningful dreams or creative dreams. You don't need to become lucid or practice dream recall or keep a journal unless you genuinely want to. Your brain will do its work. The processes we've discussed will unfold naturally, automatically, perfectly, without any conscious effort from you. All you need to do is allow it, is surrender to the natural rhythm of waking and sleeping that has guided life on this planet for hundreds of millions of years. This rhythm is older than humanity, older than primates, older than mammals. It's woven into the fabric of biology itself, as fundamental as metabolism or reproduction or growth. You're part of this ancient pattern, part of this endless cycle of consciousness and unconsciousness, activity and rest, waking and dreaming. The sanctuary of sleep. As you prepare for sleep tonight, know that you're participating in one of nature's most sophisticated processes. Your brain, that 3-pound universe of consciousness, that 100 billion neuron miracle of complexity, will transition through stages of sleep, each one serving important functions, each one necessary for your well-being. You'll descend through light sleep into deep sleep, where your body repairs itself and your immune system strengthens, where growth hormone is released and tissues are rebuilt, where energy stores are replenished and cellular maintenance occurs. You'll rise back up into REM sleep, where dreams play across your inner vision like movies on a screen that only you can see, and this cycle will repeat 4 or 5 times through the night, each cycle lasting roughly 90 minutes, each one following the same basic pattern, but with variations. More deep sleep early in the night, when your body most needs physical restoration. More REM sleep later in the night, when your brain focuses on memory consolidation and emotional processing. This will happen in cycles, repeating through the night, a symphony of consciousness and unconsciousness that plays out in perfect biological rhythm. Your heart rate will slow in deep sleep, dropping to its lowest levels of the day, giving your cardiovascular system time to rest and recover. It will quicken in REM, sometimes matching waking levels as your brain becomes highly active. Your breathing will deepen in deep sleep, slow and regular, efficient and restorative. It will become irregular in REM, varying in rhythm and depth, responding to the emotional content of your dreams. Your brainwaves will rise and fall, slow and quicken, creating patterns that neuroscientists can measure but never fully explain. Slow delta waves in deep sleep, sweeping across your cortex like tides. Faster theta waves in light sleep and REM, creating the neural environment for dreams. Brief bursts of sleep spindles, those rapid oscillations that seem to protect sleep from external disturbances and facilitate memory consolidation. And through it all, you'll be there, experiencing it from the inside, living through states of consciousness that are as different from waking as waking is from deep sleep. You'll be the same person, the same consciousness, but transformed by these different states, exploring different dimensions of your own mind. The natural wisdom. You might wake briefly between cycles. Most people do, though they don't remember it. These moments of waking are natural, normal, part of the rhythm. They're your brain checking in, making sure everything is okay, briefly surveying the environment before returning to sleep. If you find yourself awake in the middle of the night, don't worry, don't fight it. Don't look at the clock and calculate how many hours of sleep you're losing. Don't let anxiety about not sleeping keep you from sleeping. Just relax, breathe. Trust that sleep will return. Your brain knows how to sleep. It's been doing this your entire life. The cycles will complete themselves. The dreams will come and go like tides. If sleep takes a few minutes to return, That's okay. Use that time to notice the quiet, to appreciate the darkness, to feel the comfort of your bed, to simply be present without agenda or anxiety. Sleep will come when you stop chasing it, when you stop treating it as something you need to achieve or accomplish. And when morning comes, when light filters through your curtains or your alarm pulls you gently back to waking consciousness, you'll return from wherever your dreams took you. You might remember fragments, a feeling, an image, a sense of having been somewhere, or you might wake with no memory of dreams at all, just the feeling of having slept, of having been refreshed by the night's rest. Both are perfectly normal. Both indicate that your brain has done its work successfully. The dreams you don't remember aren't lost, dear dreamer. They've served their purpose. They've helped your brain process emotions, consolidate memories, make connections, run simulations. The forgetting is part of the system working correctly, part of your brain's wisdom in separating dream experiences from waking memories, in keeping the boundaries clear between what actually happened and what you only dreamed. Trust in that forgetting. It's not a failure but a feature, not a loss but a letting go. Carrying dreams forward. And if you do remember dreams, if fragments stay with you into the morning, carry them lightly, notice them with curiosity, but without the need to overinterpret. Dreams can be meaningful, can offer insights, can sometimes reveal patterns in your emotional life that your waking mind hasn't fully acknowledged, but they can also just be dreams, the random firing of neurons, the accidental poetry of memory consolidation, the strange narratives that emerge when the storytelling parts of your brain try to make sense of neural noise. Both are okay. Both are part of the rich tapestry of your inner life. What matters most isn't understanding every dream, analyzing every symbol, extracting every possible meaning. What matters is that you're sleeping, that you're dreaming, that your brain is doing its essential nightly work. What matters is that you're giving yourself this time for rest, for restoration, for the mysterious processes that happen only when you surrender control, only when you let consciousness slip away into the deeper waters of sleep. Some mornings you might wake with a sense of having figured something out during the night, having processed something that was bothering you, having gained a new perspective on an old problem. You might not remember the specific dream that provided this insight, but you can feel that something shifted during sleep. Trust this. Your brain has been working on your behalf, making connections, finding patterns, organizing information in ways that your conscious mind couldn't. Other mornings you might wake feeling unsettled, carrying the residue of anxiety dreams or nightmares into your waking hours. Be gentle with yourself on these mornings. Remember that anxiety dreams, unpleasant as they are, might be serving important functions, processing stress, practicing threat responses, helping you prepare for challenges. The discomfort is temporary. The benefits persist. The eternal return. So, as we part ways tonight, as you move from this moment of learning toward the moment of sleeping, I want to leave you with one final thought. You are a dreaming creature. You're part of an ancient lineage of consciousness that stretches back millions of years, a lineage that includes not just humans but all mammals, all beings that experience REM sleep and its accompanying dreams. When you dream tonight, you're participating in something vast and ancient, something that connects you to every human who has ever lived and every dreaming creature that shares this planet with us. Your dreams are your birthright, your nightly gift from evolution, your private theatre where the only audience is you. They're mysterious, yes, puzzling, certainly, not fully understood by science, not completely explainable by any theory, but they're yours. They belong to you in a way that nothing else does. No one can dream your dreams. No one can enter that private space. It's the most intimate relationship you'll ever have. The relationship between your conscious mind and the unconscious processes that support it, between your waking self and your dreaming self. between the you who plans and decides and analyzes, and the you who simply experiences, accepts, flows with whatever arises. Trust in this relationship. Trust in your brain's ancient wisdom. Trust in the processes that have been refined over millions of years of evolution to serve you, to protect you, to help you learn and grow and integrate your experiences into the ongoing narrative of your life. You don't need to control these processes. You don't need to improve them or fix them or understand them completely. You just need to allow them, to make space for them, to give yourself the gift of rest and sleep and dreams. Every dream you have, whether you remember it or not, is a small miracle, a universe created from nothing, a world generated entirely by neural activity, an experience that feels absolutely real while having no external existence whatsoever. You create these miracles every night, casually, automatically, without thought or effort. Your brain is an imagination engine, a reality generator, a consciousness creator, and during sleep, freed from the constraints of sensory input, it shows you what it can do. The final invitation. So close this screen now, dear dreamer. Put away your devices. Dim the lights. Let the technology of the modern world fade into the background. You're about to engage with something much older, much more fundamental than any human invention. Settle into your bed, that safe space you return to each night, that familiar territory where you transition between waking and sleeping, between day and night, between the external world and your interior universe. Let your body relax into the mattress. Feel the pillow supporting your head, cradling it in softness. Notice your breathing, that gentle rhythm that will continue all night long, carrying oxygen to your brain, maintaining the life processes that allow consciousness, both waking and dreaming, to exist at all. Notice how your breath moves, how your chest rises and falls, how air flows in and out without any effort from you. This is one of your body's many automatic processes, one of the countless things your nervous system handles without conscious input. Let your eyes close. Let the muscles of your face soften. Let go of the expression you've been holding all day. Your face doesn't need to do anything right now. Let your jaw relax, unclenching if it's been clenched. Let your tongue rest softly in your mouth. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears, releasing the tension that accumulates there. Let your hands rest, open and relaxed wherever they naturally fall. Let your legs relax, heavy and still, sinking into the bed. And as you feel yourself beginning to drift, beginning that gentle descent into sleep, know that you're safe. Know that your brain will take care of you. Know that whatever dreams come will be just dreams, will serve their purposes, will dissolve when they're no longer needed. Know that you'll wake refreshed, restored, ready for whatever tomorrow brings. The theatre is opening its curtains. The nightly performance is about to begin. You're both the audience and the star, both the observer and the observed, both the dreamer and the dream, and it's all happening in the miraculous space of your own consciousness, in that private universe that exists nowhere but in the firing patterns of your neurons, in the chemical dance of your neurotransmitters, in the ineffable experience of being you, alive, aware, dreaming. Gratitude and wonder. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your curiosity, your attention, your willingness to explore these mysteries with me. Thank you for bringing your consciousness to this exploration of consciousness, for thinking about thinking, for wondering about wondering, in a busy world that often discourages this kind of reflection, that pushes us toward constant activity and productivity. You've taken time to simply consider, to learn, to appreciate the extraordinary in the ordinary. May your sleep be deep and restful. May your dreams be whatever they need to be, whether you remember them or forget them, whether they're peaceful or anxious, whether they make sense or dissolve into beautiful nonsense. May you trust in the process, in your brain's wisdom, in the ancient rhythms that have guided life through billions of nights. May you wake refreshed, restored, perhaps carrying some small gift from the night country, perhaps carrying nothing but the simple gift of rest. And know that tomorrow night, the cycle will begin again. The theatre will reopen, the dreams will return, and you'll continue this ancient practice of sleeping and dreaming, this essential rhythm of consciousness and unconsciousness that makes you human, that connects you to every dreamer who has ever lived, that will continue as long as you continue. This is your nightly birthright, your evolutionary inheritance, your private sanctuary of consciousness. Sweet dreams, dear dreamer. May you find peace in the darkness. May you find wonder in the strange. May you find rest in the letting go. May you trust in the mystery. Good night.